Summer ups make me feel fine. It is Thursday, August 15th, US, Canada, whatever. And it's What Chaos presented by Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports. Made easy. Use promo code What Chaos for a first deposit match up to $100. I'm DJ Bean. Peter Blackburn is there. Sean DePaz is over there. Hi, boys.
What's cooking?
Hey, howdy, hey.
Adorning our set, I see over there an incredible Oregon Ducks jersey. And we'll have to talk about how our jerseys are decorated, or our set is decorated right now, because I got a jersey situation myself.
I mean, this thing is incredible, and this backstory behind it is even more incredible because a company was sending us this jersey. It was after Oregon's club team had like an outdoor game, I want to say like in December, and we quote tweeted being like, yo, those jerseys are unbelievable. So the jersey company that made them reached out to us and was like, we're going to send you a pair of these. And they sent them to us, and they never showed up. And it said delivered. I reached back out to them, and I was like, hey, just so you know, we're having some like mailroom snafus, and we haven't got these jerseys yet. They were like, we sent them, says they're delivered. And we were just like, okay, we're never going to get these jerseys. Last week, again, this was like, that was like January, December or January. Last week, first week of August, I got an email being like, hey, you've had a package unopened in the resident mailroom for months. And I've taken the liberty of opening up that package.
It's against the law.
It's literal
This
felony.
is our like our own personal Lemieux bobblehead story.
Yeah.
Just like they went missing. There was a felony involved.
Yager.
But
yeah.
or Yager, yeah. But at the end of the day, we got our bobbleheads.
I'm glad that this person reached out to me. Very good behavior to be like, hey, I've got your package. I can come drop it off whenever you're going to be in your studio next. I only would have asked, don't commit the felony.
It's like
reach out before you clearly like found my name in my email.
Yes.
You could have done that knowing that my name was on the front of the envelope before you opened it.
big time like I don't know, is that chaotic good? It's definitely not lawful good. I'll say
Definitely not lawful good. Chaotic good.
Neutral maybe, because they committed a felony, but also they didn't steal anything.
Well, these are beautiful.
But shout out to Verbero,
Yes.
Custom Teamwear, because they're the ones who produced and sent these Oregon jerseys. Do you say Oregon?
That's okay.
Oregon?
I was going to ask because you can't
Say Oregon.
I say Oregon.
Say Oregon.
I think I say Oregon in real life, but when I think about it, I say Oregon.
It's the Oregon Trail, not the Oregon
It's the Oregon Trail, but Portland, Oregon.
Oregon.
No, no one says Portland, Oregon. People say Portland, Oregon. Really, they just say Portland, and then Maine is the one that needs the qualifier. But
it shouldn't. That's the original one, and that's the best one. I just spent like 5 days in Maine.
Pete is very dug in on Portland, Maine is called Portland.
It
Correct.
is gun. It is Oregon, not
Oregon.
gun. It's like it's more of a G-U-N-G-I-N sound.
I know that Oregon is the quote unquote appropriate, correct pronunciation, but Oregon is more natural to me.
All right, we can't dick around. We have a very loaded episode. We have Logan Stankoven on the show today. Super excited for that. And we finally review Minor Leaguer from somebody who made the movie Minor Leaguer. It's a movie starring Teemu Selänne and Brett Hull. Katie Nolan is going to join us to discuss that. So that is a very, very exciting thing. We've got lots and lots to do. But Sean...
Wait, you didn't address the other jersey decoration.
If you're watching and wonder why one of my stalls behind me has a jersey that has fallen, It hasn't. I threw that shit on the ground. Fuck St. Louis Blues right now. Chaos in the NHL. And whenever shit like this goes down, I'm like, I hate that we can't really use the word chaos anymore because it sounds like we're doing like brand placement or something.
We can still use chaos. Chaos exists long before us, will exist long after us.
I don't think
we
so.
love chaos.
Chaos dies with us.
We love chaos, which is why we named the show What Chaos. And chaos is so central to hockey. So like we can't avoid the word chaos.
To be honest, I didn't realize that was a shot at the Blues. I thought it was more of a Brett Hull minor leaguer.
Oh, no.
Commentary.
Oh, interesting. Yes, because we're discussing minor leaguers starring Brett Hull, co-starring Brett Hull on this episode. But no, I have taken my St. Louis Blues jersey, which I have loved and worn forever, thrown it on the ground because I'm mad at the St. Louis Blues because they have really brought the chaos. And if this involved anybody else, I would salute them and say, what incredible behavior. Chaos in August, not the type of stuff that you would expect to get. They go out. Here's a little timeline. Here's a cheat sheet for you. On Monday, we find out via Bob Stauffer, who else, that the Oilers are going to put Evander Kane on LTIR. He might need surgery. And oh, there you go. Wouldn't you know it? Now they've got all the cap space they need to figure out their situation, to sign, most importantly, their two young RFAs, Philip Broberg, the defenseman, and Dylan Holloway, the wing, both of whom first-round picks, very promising players. Awesome. They now have about $4 million in cap space thereabouts. They can give them each $1.5 million, maybe even $2 million if they want to get crazy. Enter Doug Armstrong and the St. Louis Blues on Tuesday. And I can't even remember. Did you send it to me? How did we find out about this?
I sent it to the group chat.
You sent it to the fucking group chat. The Blues signed Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, both players, to offer sheets. And let me tell you, something from my beat writing days, I know offer sheets and the rules and the tricks well. Famously, better than some GMs do. Doug Armstrong and the Blues knew what the fuck they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
They signed them to contracts with AAVs under 5 years, so they can't fuck themselves on the compensation. And if each contract were for $1 more, they would have had to bump up into the next classification of compensation. So $4.58 million cap hit for 2 years to Philip Broberg, $2.29 million cap hit over 2 years for Dylan Holloway. You'd get a third-round pick if you chose not to match on Holloway, a second-round pick if you chose not to match on Broberg. Fucking awful behavior. It's cool behavior in some ways,
cool.
but
it's
cool. Fucking awful behavior because the St. Louis Blues don't care that the Broberg contract especially is an awful contract that will fuck themselves in their own ways, but they don't fucking care because they're like, you know what? We have a unique situation to just target the team that is favored in our conference and fuck shit up. I respect that, but I don't like that it was done to my guys.
So it's not necessarily an awful contract.
Yeah, so it
is a real risk.
Is someone who doesn't know offer sheets.
I mean,
you know them.
I know the process, but the way that you explained it earlier off the show was it had a lot to it. From like an agent perspective and like a future implications
business perspective.
Exactly. From a pure hockey and value standpoint, the Broberg deal may not be a bad contract. It is surprising that he would be offered that. And I don't think you have a lot of evidence to suggest that he's worth that right now in terms of pure number. But like they are going as high as they possibly can comfortably with Broberg because they know it's going to make the Oilers uncomfortable. Like what the Blues are doing right now is just trying to maximize the uncomfortability for the Oilers, basically.
Yeah, they're not doing this for the Blues. This is not about the Blues. This, like everything else in the NHL, to some people's chagrin, is about the Oilers. This is them trying to fuck with the Oilers as much as they possibly can. We could talk about more of that in a second. What I had said to you, Pete, about why this could fuck the Blues is some will view this as the Blues are paying a little more than $9 million to steal a great prospect for a second-round pick.
For a second-round pick for a guy who was taken 8th overall.
Pretty
a couple
good
years
deal.
ago.
If it just costs money and a second-round pick, why not do that? It doesn't just cost money. An agent, a very prominent agent, who would have no reason to deceive me on this, explained to me years ago, hey, like the whole thing of like no one offer sheets anybody because they just don't want to upset their buddies in other teams' front offices. Maybe that's part of it. But a lot of the time, it's just bad business because you're not just spending money in a pick to get the player. Here's what happens. The Blues, in the first round this year, drafted somebody, Jiricek, I think is their last name, and they're a defenseman. Philip Broberg, in the NHL in the regular season, has accomplished very little over the course of his entry-level contract. What happens to the Blues when Jiricek, if he goes out and does something over the course of his entry-level contract, has his deal expire, and he comes to the negotiating table and says, 3 years ago, you gave somebody with 13 points in 81 NHL games over the course of their entry-level deal this pretty big percentage of the cap. You got to give that to me now. It messes up teams' own cap structure. It messes up teams' future negotiations. And another thing, what happens if Philip Broberg goes out and is an awesome player? Then you don't just get, like, if he's an awesome player over the next couple of years on a contract that pays him $1.8 million a year, you say, okay, next year, next deal, we're probably looking at $6 million plus.
Double it.
Or if we're trying to get an 8-year deal out of this, maybe 9, something like that. It throws things out of whack. So oftentimes it is just bad business, which is why teams don't do offer sheets. The Holloway thing, I think, isn't of much consequence. I think that's an easier match, obviously, but the ceiling with Broberg is so much higher now.
And
yeah,
I mean, you mentioned that Broberg was buried in the AHL for a long time and came out at the end of last season. But like from what we saw during the playoffs from Broberg, really good.
Oh, you know, he's a player.
Probably should have been with the Oilers for much more of last season than he spent.
So you mentioned that it makes the Oilers very uncomfortable. No matter what, this is going to hurt the Oilers because if they match, then they are really going to not be able to do anything else to their roster. Obviously, they're going to have to trade people like Cody Ceci, but they're going to not be able to do anything at the trade deadline. And even if you are a loaded team going into the season, if you're a cup contender, you don't know what's going to happen. I said this on an Instagram live yesterday. Follow What Chaos on Instagram. What if Stu Skinner has a really bad season? I don't expect that to happen, and I'm the biggest Stu guy in the world, but what if there's a goaltending situation? Or what if Stu Skinner, he's kind of in and out health-wise? Like, you just don't know what things are going to present themselves and what obstacles are going to present themselves. So that would make the Oilers really uncomfortable. Also, furthermore, they wouldn't be able to trade these guys. Yeah. You can't trade them for a year. So even if there was a big move for them to make, they wouldn't be able to move 2 of their best bargaining chips. So this just is the perfect crime. So I at least salute the Oilers in that respect because it's the perfect crime.
Happened. So glad it happened. And like you can be mad that this happened to the Oilers, but the Oilers kind of did it to themselves too. Mm-hmm. They waited this long. They allowed it to happen. They allowed it to get to this point. And I've seen some people be a little pissy about how it reflects Holloway and Broberg. Shut the fuck up. If you're going to get those offers, absolutely take them. Absolutely take them. And I saw people being like, well, how do you think the rest of the team's going to respond to the fact that they signed those offer sheets? The guys in the room know that it's a business. They know that you got to go out and get your money, maximize your deals where you can. Like Broberg and Holloway aren't intentionally trying to fuck with the Oilers. They were presented with good offers. And I'm sure that if they had a choice, both of them might say, maybe not Broberg.
Yeah, I mean, they've both been dicked around by the team, so I could see them both being like, no.
Suck it, yeah. But knowing where the teams are right now, I'm sure they probably want to play for the Oilers next year over the Blues, maybe competitive-wise. But like that, the Oilers have a chance to match those contracts if they want to. So like those guys can stick it to the Oilers while also staying with the Oilers. I think the comments of like the team is going to reject them now is so overblown.
There is so much misunderstanding with this just because offer sheets don't happen a lot. I guess that explains why people are often misunderstood when it comes to this thing. Because I also saw a lot of like, hey, remember, they don't have to sign those offer sheets. Well, but they did. So like that part has already happened. Yeah, I already I'm bummed about that part, and I tweeted about it, that like Broberg ends up being in a cup or bust year. He ends up being yet another overpaid player on that team, or overpaid defenseman, I should say, and he's going to get shit that he probably doesn't deserve. I think he's going to be such a good player. I don't think the Blues really give a fuck. I think they're just kind of dicking around. But if he returns to the Oilers, I hope that nobody holds it against him. Like, okay, we like Adam Henrique and we don't like Philip Broberg. Play that game if you want. I think that's a little foolish. I think this guy's going to be a stud, but now it's been set up that there's just going to be discomfort there between the player and the team, because what happens if they match on him and he does what I was talking about in the Blues scenario, where it's like, okay, well then he's going to have to be paid an absolute ton on the deal after that. This fucks everything up, and this is why teams don't fucking offer sheet players. This is why also you don't celebrate before you find the goal line, because the Oilers kind of threw a perfect game in the first half of the offseason, and then they hired Stan Bowman, and then this happened to them. Yeah,
so,
I mean, I did wonder.
Really not great vibes to finish out the offseason for the Oilers.
I wondered if they were like, to my knowledge, a lot of GMs like Stan Bowman, and he has a really good working relationship with a lot of people in the NHL. But I'm like, this happens right after they get a new GM. Is someone with an axe to grind against him like, let's fuck with him?
Well, the Blues are big rivals of the Chicago Blackhawks.
Blues are big rivals of the Chicago Blackhawks. Peter Chiarelli is big rivals of the Edmonton Oilers.
Connecting the dots here.
So there's a lot that could be going on there. What we can all agree on is the had never heard of Philip Broberg before this week. They don't know what the fuck. They know offer sheets well, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it comes to these players. It's only about fucking with people.
The Blues are looking for an identity right now, though. Like they're in a real we don't know who we are kind of stage as a team. I like the Blues just being shit stirrers.
I will take that, but for a month, I'm shit talking them mercilessly. Okay, so
Fair.
No matter what happens,
Jordan Binnington's on that team. I'm always down to shit talk them.
Throwing the jersey on the ground. If I bump into Torrey Krug around Boston, I'm gonna miss him and be like, you know what you fucking did? Even though I don't think Torrey Krug is in. I don't think that Torrey Krug's fingerprints are anywhere near this thing, but
they could be.
Anybody I see from the Blues, if I hear some Blues music, turning that shit off. Very mad at the team. You mentioned the Oilers dicking around, playing with their food a bit. Bob Stauffer, who knows everything about the Oilers and also just has the best memory in the world. So anything that he recalls ever happening, happened. He's just, his brain is nuts. I was listening to him on Oilers Now on Tuesday, and he said that during the season, when both players were buried in the minors, both players being Dylan Holloway and Philip Broberg, Ken Holland was instructed to get both contracts done. Sign both players. They're both in very vulnerable spots. They've got their entry-level deals expiring. What better time, if you think they're going to be good players, than to say, hey, here's 2 years, $1 million per, and let's keep going with this. We like you. Or maybe even give them like 1.2 or something like that. I don't know what happened. I don't know what Ken Holland was doing. I don't know if he was asleep at the wheel, but that famously did not happen. And then this offseason comes, and I won't get on Jeff Jackson and Stan Bowman yet, because Jeff Jackson at least was pretty fucking busy. He was doing a bunch of shit.
Doing some cool shit.
Maybe he went to the cottage a little early or something, but this all could have been avoided, and I choose to blame Ken Holland and the St. Louis Blues.
I don't blame the Blues at all. I think Ken Holland probably could have been a little bit more proactive. Maybe file his retirement papers a little later than he did.
I think he filed them. At first, I was like, yo, this guy handled the goaltending situation masterfully.
By not doing anything.
The more time that's gone on, I'm like, I think he just didn't
want to do
stuff. I think he didn't know about the goaltending situation. He just didn't do anything.
He just didn't want to do anything.
And then you could say, okay, well, then how do you explain the Adam Henrique thing? But like maybe they weren't calling up Philip Broberg because he just like wasn't doing it. He wasn't there.
Didn't want to do the paperwork.
It was a whole thing. Gonna have to send it to somebody.
Gotta send too many emails.
I'm going to do the thing that's very cool, where somebody leaves your team and you decide everything bad that happened was that person's fault. So bad job, Ken Holland.
Smear campaign. Nice.
You're my second least favorite executive in the NHL.
Who's first?
I was going to name somebody random just to be a dick, but Doug Armstrong.
All right.
Although it does remind. Do you guys want more offer sheets? Like this was this is fun and chaotic.
Yes. Yeah. Like especially in August, you're gonna turn down a big juicy storyline full of drama. I know it involves your favorite team, but this is where you got to prioritize the show and the content over the benefit of your team.
I did that this season. I prioritized what is the best content for this show, and I just focused. I have no choice. The best content for the show this year was Edmonton Oilers. And now, even as we're trying to get away, we're not trying to get away from the Oilers, but even when we're like, nothing's going on, let's talk about movies. A team wants to fuck with another team. And of course, the Oilers is the targeted team.
Yeah, but it's like not as annoying as when the Canes went after Kotkaniemi after the Sebastian Aho thing. Like that was so petty that it was like it was funny, but also like, come on, grow up a little bit. This one is at least like, well, maybe the Blues just fucking hate the Oilers for some reason that is hard to comprehend.
My favorite offer sheet thing ever was actually one of my favorite offer sheet things. I'll say
Shea Weber.
What's that?
Shea Weber.
No, that was just
with
like
Shea
Flyers
Weber.
are just stupid. Like that was just like stupid people being stupid. My favorite one was Ryan O'Reilly.
Why?
Was it the Flames signed Ryan O'Reilly to an offer sheet coming out of the lockout, and they didn't know, they mishandled something with roster construction, and they signed the Avalanche matched, but the Flames, I believe, didn't know that once the league returned from the lockout, certain players were going to have to go through waivers. So like the only way to add him to their roster would have been to put him on waivers. So the Flames, I believe, and this is Googleable, Sean, if you want to just look up Flames.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I have it.
Do you have it? Give it to us.
Yeah, I mean basically what you said, they signed him, but they didn't realize they would have had to put him through waivers. So if they had signed him, he would have gone through waivers, likely gone to another team, and they would have lost the first and third round draft pick that they would have had to give in the Avs in compensation for O'Reilly. So they would have literally just given the Avs a first and third for nothing.
I don't remember that at all. That's awesome.
I got more stories like this, some off the record, of like this whole offer sheet thing not being like, maybe GMs don't do it because they really don't know how it fucking works.
I also I love the offer sheet like the Aho one, where it's like the other team just negotiates a good deal for you. Where like the Hurricanes tried to sign Aho and the Canadians tried to sign Aho and they just like gave him like an underwhelming contract. And so the Canes were like, oh yeah, we'll match that one for sure. And then they got Aho on a pretty good deal.
Yeah, so my favorite one, though, was Dustin Penner in 2007. I don't know if you folks remember. The Edmonton Oilers signed Dustin Penner from the Anaheim Ducks to an offer sheet. And do you remember who the GM of the Ducks was at the time?
No.
It was a guy called Brian Burke.
Okay.
And Brian Burke handled this as unprofessionally as anybody could. And by that, I don't mean like botched it like the way the Flames did. He motherfucked Oilers GM Kevin Lowe as much as he possibly could. He was like, oh yeah, well, like they had to do it because their GM is horrible and doesn't know what he's doing. So like they just need another player. And then when he said that they weren't matching, he said, we're going to take the picks, and based on how Kevin Lowe runs that team, they're going to be very good picks. There's like a super cut of, I saw it recently.
Brian Burke rules.
There's a super cut of Brian Burke just fucking killing Kevin Lowe, saying what a horrible GM.
Interestingly, I came up on an Oilers Nation article about that, and they're also talking about how Then Sabres general manager Darcy Regier also was pissed off at Lowe because they tried to sign Thomas Vanek in that same summer, and the Sabres were like, "What the fuck? For what and for why?"
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so he called him gutless. He said that it was an act of desperation for a general manager who is fighting to keep his job. Very rich for somebody who traded 2 very high picks
we didn't need
for
to talk
Phil
about that
Kessel,
part.
trying to keep his job. Everybody's trying to keep their job at some
You
point.
should be trying to keep your job.
It's on owners to not fire GMs before they realize they're trying to keep their job, because then they make ridiculous moves. But there was apparently there's like more shit that happened from there, where there was
minority owner of the Sabres, Larry Quinn, stated that if there's ever an opportunity for us to put an offer sheet in an Edmonton player, as long as we're alive, we'll be very comfortable doing that. So it was just literally just like, we will fuck you up.
I mean, that was the
for the rest of
Kotkaniemi
the time.
thing.
Yeah.
That's like that was entirely revenge for Aho.
I love that.
Yeah, like I
Give me
love
the
the drama that comes out of offer sheets. Never get rid of like the ability to do it. But
do you wish they were harder to do? Because they are very prohibitive.
yeah, do you wish they were easier to do?
No, I'm sorry. Do you wish they were easier to do? Because there's just like a lot of machinations where like a lot of the contracts, whenever offer sheets are made, they're just fucking weird. Like the Broberg thing, $4.58 million. You want to sign a defenseman off his entry-level deal who projects to be a really good player, and you're giving him $4.58 million a year. Do it for 7 years, because if he ends up being good, then that's a steal and you're buying out years of free agency. The problem is you can't do that because they make it hard to actually poach the players. If you go more than 5 years on an offer sheet, then the cap hit that determines the compensation is not years or total money divided by years like a normal cap hit. It's total money divided by 5. So if, say, the Blues did that with like 7 years times 4.58 with Philip Broberg, they would have had to give up, I think, probably like a first and a third round pick or something like that. So there's a lot of like mechanisms, again, that like I think a lot of people don't know, that make it trickier.
I don't want them to make it easier, because I want GMs to like really think about whether or not it's worth it, both from draft picks, from money, from like pissing people off. Pick your spots. And like when the offer sheet happens, like it does now, every few years, you're like, oh, damn, what's this about? And I also think that like from the best part about an offer sheet is when it's done to a team like this particular situation that is in a really tough spot, and you're basically just fucking them over, where like they're going to have to make a really tough decision. And like, even if the Oilers were able to trade Cody Ceci right now, they would take a fucking bath on that deal, because everybody knows that they're trying to get rid of that money. And I mean, not to be mean, but like Cody Ceci wasn't going to fetch you a lot anyway.
Yeah. Although I think it was Elliot Friedman said like, if the Oilers want to trade Cody Ceci, no problem.
Sure, but like
teams want him,
but they're not going to be getting anything back now.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised to even hear. No, he was saying like they'll be able to move. They weren't going to get anything back anyway. I didn't think, but
they may have to pay now to unload Cody Ceci.
That's not what Elliot's saying. I would have that's what I would have assumed. I would have assumed that in the first place to trade Cody Ceci, they would have to give up something. But Friedman wouldn't.
I don't doubt that there are teams that would want Cody Ceci and would be like, hey, if you give him to us basically for free, we'll take him, and like maybe not retain any money. Like there are bad teams that have some flexibility that would just take an NHL caliber player.
Yeah, I mean, retaining money is a non-starter. The Oilers need somebody to take his contract. So
just getting back to the drama real quick, going on in that Oilers Nation article, they mentioned how at one point Burke said that Lowe challenged him to a fight.
Yes.
And it got so bad that he said, quote, it got to the point where Gary Bettman called me and said, I heard you guys are thinking about having a fight. If you do, I'm going to suspend you both indefinitely. That's how crazy it got between me and Kevin.
The idea of a commissioner calling the general manager just be like, hey, heard you guys thinking about scrapping. That can't happen.
That is so Curb Your Enthusiasm, where like Larry gets in a fight with like Rosie O'Donnell or whoever he's getting. Like he's getting into physical altercations with these people.
He said the feud got to the point where Kevin challenged me to a fight on a radio interview. So I'm like, that's not really how you challenge a guy to a fight. If you want to challenge a guy to a fight, you pick a place and time and you show up.
Don't tell me how to challenge someone to a fight.
Wait,
for
then
those of us who don't know how to do it.
He goes on to say, so I called Glenn Sather and I say, look, this guy went on the radio and challenged me to a fight. I'm going to be at Lake Placid at the U.S. Junior Camp. I gave him 3 dates. I told him I'd rent a barn. I picked the address and the time I'd fight Kevin Lowe.
So not
That's
only
the original Meet Me in Temecula.
yeah, you pick the time and the place, and it better be in front of kids.
And also, I picked the time and the place.
yeah, that's not how you do it. You pick a time and a place.
Lake Placid is also like one of the most beautiful places in America. I just love the idea that he was just like getting on a flight to Lake Placid. He's like, oh, what brings you to Lake Placid? I'm here to kick somebody's ass.
The idea of getting on a plane to fly anywhere to fight somebody,
unless
as
you're
a
getting
grown
paid for it,
like,
yeah.
unless you're a boxer or a UFC fighter, is so extremely fun.
Just to settle a beef.
Red and bare-assed all the way across the country to go fight another grown man.
I respect it, though. Instead of letting the problem sit there, go deal with it.
Stan Bowman and Doug Armstrong, where are they fighting? Who picks the time and the place?
Stan Bowman's got to be like, hey, listen, I just got here. This isn't my fault. This isn't my mess.
The social media heat is still a little hot, man.
I think if you're Stan Bowman, you have to lose that fight. Just and maybe in the hopes that you gain some sympathy or something.
Yeah, people will be like,
you gain nothing by winning a fight against anybody right now.
But what does Stan Bowman gain by taking a new job finally, immediately losing 2 players, and getting his ass kicked?
Yeah, that's also true. It does sound like a lose-lose.
Like, short of like real life serious stuff, that is as bad a start as he could have. Like, I never even considered
getting your ass kicked.
He might get beat up also.
Getting your ass kicked physically within the first couple of weeks at your new job is a tough look.
Although it depends.
Hard to come back from.
It depends, because if you don't go down easy and you keep getting up, it could endear you to the fan base.
You're still getting your ass kicked at work.
Yeah, but you didn't give up.
Well, the first couple of weeks for Stan Bowman have not been good. Why? Did they boo him at his introductory press conference? Yeah, probably. But also, he lost Broberg and Holloway kind of for nothing, and
look,
he
now
is
he's in the
not
neck
doing
brace.
so great. Yeah. He got beaten up very badly. The other GMs are beating him up. It's not nice. Tell you what, though. If they were in such a fight, they could wear glasses if they wanted, because as long as they were wearing the right glasses and they got busted up, they'd be able to replace them. I'm talking about Shady Rays. Shady Rays, they're the perfect brand of glasses for Pete, Sean, and myself. We wear them. I myself can only speak from personal experience. I am a multiple sunglasses guy. Got to have a bunch in rotation, different fits for different looks for different days. And Shady Rays makes so many different amazing styles and different colors that you will have one for every occasion. And one of the great parts about Shady Rays, say you get a pair and you don't love them for some reason, you can send them back easy, return them worry-free within 30 days. And also, if they get busted up, Shady Rays' replacement policy. Oh, that lost or broken replacement situation they have, so good. I can speak from experience. So, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Also want to talk to you fine folks about Lucy Nicotine, because this has become the summer of Lucy for me. I've been on the golf course. I've been on the couch. I've been popping Lucy's left and right. Lucy is 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. It comes in the pouches, gums, and our favorite, the breakers. Sean, tell them about the breakers.
I mean, it's just like it's a pouch with a nice little juice pod, I'll call it. You break them, releases a nice burst of extra flavor into the already delicious Lucy nicotine pouch.
That's what we call a juicy Lucy.
Yeah.
They're available in 4 milligrams or 8 milligrams. And the pouches, they go up to 12 milligrams. You're talking about flavors like mint, berry citrus, espresso. You got like ice.
Apple ice.
I was cinnamon.
I was ripping mango earlier.
I've been doing a lot of based off of the mood or whatever I'm doing. The cinnamon is like a warming sensation that's really nice and like comfy and cozy. And then when I play golf, throw some mint in there. It's a little cooling.
I do like that.
Sweet
That's
little
what
buzz.
I like about the apple ice one. It's a little fruity, a little minty. It gives you a best of both worlds.
There's so many unbelievable flavors of Lucy. We love them. And a big part of the Lucy experience, you set yourself up with a subscription. You don't have to go to the gas station. They deliver Lucy straight to your door. So level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/whatchaos and use promo code whatchaos to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co using promo code whatchaos to get 20% off and always free shipping. Here is the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Here is Dallas Stars forward Logan Stankoven. The most special guest joins us now. Really, this is just Pete's birthday because Pete is the biggest Logan Stankoven guy in the world. And Logan Stankoven of the Dallas Stars joins us now. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
So you're eligible for Rookie of the Year this year. Is it weird when you're like, you just played in the Western Conference Final and you're pretty experienced at this point, and now it's like, maybe grab Rookie of the Year as well?
Yeah, it is. It is a little weird, but just worked out well that way. If I played one extra regular season game, then yeah, I wouldn't be eligible. But it's nice. Hopefully this year I can get a full year under my belt, and it's going to be a tough award to win, but definitely something I'm aiming for.
Do you feel like a rookie though, just given that you've done so much and you've like been around so many veterans for a little while now?
I still feel like a rookie. Yeah, I think last year I got a good chunk of games in, but it went by pretty quick. So looking forward to the first full season.
What's like the Stars room like? Because one of my favorite things about your group last year was like you have stars at basically every age level of like an NHL experience. Like you and Wyatt, awesome guys in like middle, quote unquote middle age, and then you got the older guys like Joe Pavelski, Tyler Seguin. So like, what's the dynamic in that room like between everybody at different stages of their career?
I think it's really good. I mean, all the guys respect each other, which is nice. And like you said, there's a crop of younger guys and some older guys that are veterans and have been around the league for a while. So um, I think everyone gets along really well. Obviously, younger guys hang out a bit more, with their group, and older guys kind of have their group. But everybody really respects each other, and that's the main thing.
You lived with Joe Pavelski. You and Wyatt Johnston did. Was that incredible, or do you feel bad that maybe you had too much fun and made him quit hockey?
No, it was awesome. I'm really, really thankful that Pav opened up his house to myself and let me stay there. Otherwise, I would have been probably stuck in a hotel. So it was nice to kind of get to know him really well, him and his family, and he had a younger son, so it was fun hanging out with him as well.
So I was going to ask about like what always fascinates me when players stay with older players is oftentimes the reason why people say this older player will be good for this younger player is because they're parents themselves and they have kids. And what that means is young hockey players end up staying with like a family. You're not just staying with Joe Pavelski, you're staying with an entire family. What's it like being around a family like that? Like I want to say it was Lee Stempniak stayed with Keith Tkachuk and would just like play hockey with the kids because he's like, shit, I'm here. I like hockey. They're running around. I'm young. I'll do the same thing. What's it like being around like an actual family?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, they do, like, obviously Pav and his wife did most of the cooking, but me and Wyatt were staying there, and we try and help as much as we could. But usually we were the ones upstairs playing mini sticks with the younger son, Nate, while they were downstairs cooking meals for us. So it was a good setup, and we really enjoyed it.
Two questions. How upset were you when Pavs announced that he was going to retire? And number two, are you still going to be living with him even though he's not on the team next year?
Yeah, it's sad to see him go. Such a great career, and I think it was just more tough, like after the fact, not being able to, get him that cup. I think he more than anyone deserves it, and was such a great role model for me and Wyatt. And yeah, it's obviously tough on the team and us for sure. Being able to live around him and kind of get to know him pretty well.
You ever get yelled at around the house?
No, no, not at all. He's a pretty relaxed guy, so yeah, we really enjoyed his company.
Didn't get grounded.
Yeah. What was the weirdest part of like, because you're also, I'm sure you're trying to acclimate to the team, you're trying to make a good impression on everybody. Like, was there any moment where you're like, shit, I don't want to like make the wrong impression, or I don't want to do the wrong thing here? Is it intimidating to be in that situation?
Yeah, at first I was really shy. I didn't really want to eat too much food at the house or yeah, just certain things. Like I was pretty quiet, kept to myself, but as the days went on, I kind of opened up a bit and we were chatting more and it all worked out well. But at first, you're pretty intimidated.
And you're like, fuck, I want this guy to think I'm cool. This guy's an NHL legend and this guy's a leader on this team. I want him to think that I'm coming in here and I'm a cool guy. But if you're going in there busting chops, shooting your mouth off, he could be like, cool, you don't get to live with me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So
I can't believe it's taken this long to get to this point, but the reason why I'm such a big fan of yours is I'm 5'6", so I like to represent for the short kings, and I always pull for the smaller guys. Last year, I will say, I'll blow some smoke real quick. I was very impressed that you came into the league, and one of the big things about your game that translated even into the NHL, you're very good down low and you play very fearlessly. So I wanted to ask you just like what that is like for you to enter into the NHL and still have that like fearlessness to your game, even as a small guy down below the line and in the dirty areas.
yeah, I think it's just using that. I think first step quickness that I have, and I like to kind of protect pucks down low and hopefully make a play towards the net. But I think I just had it from a young age, like not being scared to go into the corners or take pucks to the net. I mean, it's just part of the game, and you can't really change your size, right? So at the end of the day, it's what you do on the ice and what kind of a positive impact you can have. So I think that's something that my dad has instilled in me, and past coaches. So I think just natural at this time.
I'm sure your height has been overthought at points in your life by other people, by coaches, by GMs and things like that. Pete, as someone who is 5'6", he gets to easily be like, oh, I'm a short guy, I'm 5'6" or whatever. You at 5'8", like what do you consider yourself? Do you, like, if somebody says he's too small, are you like 5'8" isn't that small, or do you put yourself in the kind of short king category as well?
I mean, I wish I had a few more inches on me, but that's just the card you're dealt, right? And you work with what you have. So I think there's pros and cons to being, a smaller guy and also a bigger guy too. But I think the perfect height would be right around 5'11", 6 feet. I think that's the perfect height. But it's all good. You just gotta work a little bit harder than everybody else and be a bit quicker.
I've played this game with friends before. If you could sacrifice other attributes of yourself for height, and we even talked about, we were like, you know what? I was like, I'd like lose an inch or whatever if I had better biceps or something like that. If you could adjust your skill set to be a few inches taller, where do you feel you could take away from and still be a good NHL player?
I think my upper body. I think like when I was younger, I did a lot of like upper body lifting and stuff, and I definitely would, take away some upper body strength just to gain a few more inches.
But that's what is one of the biggest pros of being a short guy is that if you lift, you get big so much faster than the tall guys. You have so much less
Yeah.
work to do. It's like the one thing that you have going for you. But I understand where you're coming from. I also like the one thing about being like a short athlete is that even you like listed at 5'8", nobody believes that you're 5'8" because you guys get to usually lie about listed heights. Are you actually 5'8"?
Yeah, I think I'm right around it. I haven't measured myself in a while, but yeah, like if I'm not 5'8", like really, really close to it. So
See, you're training like, how's your posture? You probably have awesome posture, right?
No, it's terrible.
You can't fucking,
Yeah,
dude.
it's not good.
I'm 5'10" or 5'9" or whatever. We're sitting there and it's like the same because I have such horrible posture. I know that I can afford to do that because I've got a few more inches. You don't kind of freak out about that? That like I can't afford to be slouching here?
No, I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But I do have bad posture. I've been told that by many people.
Do you think you would have been a first round pick if you were taller, if you were bigger? We always see guys slip beyond what usually they're projected to be picked because they're undersized. Do you think you would have been a first round pick?
I mean, I don't know. I think it would have benefited me. I don't know if I can't answer that. I don't know. I guess maybe, but I do think, yeah, my height is definitely a factor of why maybe, I dropped a little bit, or I mean, my goal was to always go in the first round, and it was disappointing when it didn't happen. But yeah, I guess teams just like the bigger players, and that's the way it is, and I'm sure it'll be like that for a long time. But I think there's always room for more small players in the game.
So I know that you and the Stars made a deep playoff run. In full disclosure, Pete pulls heavily for the Stars. I respect the Stars an absolute ton. Love Tyler Seguin from his days in Boston. I'm an Oil man, though. I like the Oilers, pull for them, but that was an incredible series. And one of the like buckle up moments, and it's going to be kind of a not great moment, but trust me, it's a good conversation, was game one, double overtime. You're playing against Connor McDavid, which is the most impossible task for people who have played a million games against him. And I know that you played in that early April game where you guys smoked the Oilers, but when you're kind of inexperienced playing against an alien like that, and he scores that goal in double overtime where he kind of just like slips past everybody, and are you like, what sport am I playing when this guy is here? Or is it just like anybody else?
I think it's just one of those moments where you wish you made a better decision. I remember that play. I was trying to go behind the net to help out my defenseman there and kind of give them some support, and the play just happened so quick. I think it was Bouchard maybe on the boards there, just sent it right across to McDavid there, and he kind of redirected it home. And yeah, I everything just happened so quick at that level, and it is surprising sometimes, but I think it just pushes you to get better, and you take the blame and you move on.
Can you have learning experiences though against, like, I know obviously famously at the end of the series, he gave you your flowers, which were well earned. You were great for what you contributed in the NHL this season, but is playing against him just kind of unlike anything else, or is it closer than it looks to people like us?
It's really, I think the first like game I played against him was really surreal, and I think it's always those top guys. You idolize them growing up, and then you step on the ice with them, and you're like, wow, these guys are legit, and they're just on a whole nother level. So yeah, the first game you're kind of in awe, but then after that, you're like, hey, like I'm on the ice, I need to defend against this guy, play him hard, make sure it's not an easy night for him.
What was the playoffs like for you as somebody who just, you're kind of just like getting your feet wet at the NHL level, and then you go on a deep playoff run? Was there any, I'm sure it's not the first time you've been involved in playoffs, obviously, but like what maybe surprised you? What was difficult to deal with? How was that whole experience for you being so new to the NHL level?
I think the physicality and the speed in playoffs definitely picked up, and you can notice a difference right from game one. We went up against Vegas there, defending Cup champs, and it was a war, like really physical and fast paced. So yeah, it was tough there. The first few games we lost, but we kind of stuck together and stuck with it, and things worked out well. But I'd say those are the main differences.
At the outset of the playoffs, did you guys look at the road ahead and be like, God damn, how do we have Vegas first round? Or was, because like I remember looking for, because I was pulling for you guys, and I looked at the bracket and I was like, Jesus Christ, they're going to have one hell of a road if they make it to the Cup final. So did you look at it being like, how did we get this unlucky? Or was it just like you only beat who's in front of you?
Yeah, I think we took it one series at a time, and looking back on it, yeah, a really tough road, and had to go through some really good teams to get to Edmonton there. But that's just the way it works. Like once playoffs hit, every single team is good, and anyone could beat anyone. So there's not really any favored teams in my opinion. But yeah, I think the message in our room was if we can beat Vegas, we can beat anyone, and we were just ran into a really good Oilers team.
So what do you make of the team this season? Obviously, Oilers go out and they make more moves, and I think that a lot of people in the West are talking about the Oilers, but you guys are back. You didn't lose a ton of players, and the word that we always use with you guys, even though you're young, is adult, because they're so well coached. You don't make a lot of mistakes. Even after a gutting loss like that, as you go into your rookie-ish season, are you like, we're as good as anybody?
Yeah, I think we made a few moves, but I think we do have that great mix of a young core, but also some veterans that can score and make big plays for us. So I think we have a great roster, and just all about who shows up and has a good summer and then comes to camp ready to go.
How you like Texas?
I like it a lot. It's nice, good weather. Not much of a winter. It's different from back home in Kamloops, where I spent most of my time. It's cold winters, but down there in Texas, it's nice, and I like all the people down in Dallas. They're all really nice, so I enjoy it.
Everybody has a welcome to the NHL moment. Did you have like a welcome to Texas moment?
That's a hard question. I don't know. I think all the overpasses on the freeways there, it's insane. Like, Vancouver, here in British Columbia is like the big city, but then you go to, Dallas, Texas, and it's got millions of people, and it's insane. Just there's so many different exits and different freeways you can take. So you got to have the Google Maps out for sure.
Are you gonna brave it on your own? Like now that Pavelski is gone, and I do think it is a good question from Pete of just stay in that house. If he wants to go somewhere else, whatever, just stay there until he sells it or something. Squatters' rights. Like, are you gonna live on your own this season?
Yeah, yeah, I have my own apartment already set up. So there's going to be me, Thomas Harley, and Wyatt Johnston all staying in the same complex. So it's nice that we're all kind of staying near each other.
Who's the adult in that group?
I'd say Harley for sure. Even though he's the oldest, but yeah, he's got an old soul.
I feel like are you allowed to be like a bit of a shit on that team? Like I said, you're also like the team is so business like, and obviously there are a lot of big personalities. Like I said, I love Tyler Seguin, but it seems like as an Oilers fan, I was terrified of you guys in the playoffs because I was like, they just don't give a fuck, man. Like nothing gets to them. They're just unflinching. Can you be like a stupid kid over there, or is like it all business all the time?
No, it's pretty much business for most part. I think in the dressing room and stuff, everyone knows their roles, and before games, like guys are pretty dialed in, and obviously we have our fun, but I think the leadership group, does a good job of making sure that we're ready to go and just staying calm, not letting anything kind of get to us. So.
I did want to ask you about your relationship with Connor Bedard, because obviously, you guys tore it up at World Junior, and I think you're one of the few people in the world that can be around Connor Bedard's age and have him say like he idolized you and like it was like an honor to play with you. So how big is like that to you, an ego boost to be like Connor Bedard said he idolizes me and said it was an honor to play alongside me? And like, what's your relationship with Connor at this point?
It's been really good. It's nice kind of getting to know him. I I used to watch him lots growing up when he played spring hockey, and I was always a few years older, right? So one of my other buddies that I played spring hockey with, his younger brother played with Bedard on the same spring team. So a lot of those same tournaments we were at, and I'd watch him, growing up and during his games, and he was always a stud. So it was pretty funny. The first time that I got to play with him was at U18s in Frisco or Dallas, Texas there. And I just loved playing with him, and got another chance at World Juniors. So I think we did have a bit of chemistry, and it was fun playing alongside him.
What kind of benchmarks do you have in mind for this season? Are you like, all right, rookie-ish season, I'm scoring 50? Or like, is there like, because you've had so much success, whether like as a leader, whether like as a captain, or just performing like crazy in the AHL, do you set certain goals and certain numbers going into a season? Or do you think, I'm just kind of getting into the NHL here, let's take it one game at a time?
I think it's a bit of both. In terms of goals, I think a 20 goal mark would be nice to hit. I think that's maybe, in terms of stats, I think that'd be a goal of mine. But I think taking it one game at a time and seeing where things go, and making progress throughout the season is what's most important.
All right, man. Well, it's awesome that you chatted with us. This is like a birthday present to Pete. Pete's birthday was a couple months ago, but we're all aboard the Stankoven train. Calder, incoming. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Good luck this season.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks. See you guys.
Thank you to Logan Stankoven. Calder winning season loading. Not a lot to really, or I think it's bad form to talk about betting odds, a player's betting odds with the player, but he is tied, I believe, second in Calder odds behind Matvei Michkov. He is the favorite, and I think that Stankoven and Celebrini are tied for second.
If I'm picking any of those guys, I'm picking Stankoven. He's got that experience. He's on a really good team. He has a real nice opportunity to stack points.
He plays with Wyatt Johnson. He's going to get so many points. He's going to score so many goals. I know he didn't say he's going to score more than 20 goals.
That was a very modest projection for Logan Stankoven.
Yeah, he's a nice young man. Derogatory. Be like
be a little bit
20 goals.
More of a shit.
Try double it and then add 100. Idiots.
I love Logan Stankoven. Short Kings represent. Would have loved to talk to him more about being short for like 20 to 25 more minutes. But this is our first meeting. Just to kind of introducing ourselves a little bit.
I appreciate
Next time.
I appreciate that how blown away he was by the interchanges in Texas. Texas highways are no joke.
Oh yeah.
They are. There's quite a lot of them, and they all like stack on top of each other. I can imagine that or if you're not from I guess the United States in particular, but
I do love the Sean's favorite part of the interview being like the logistics of highway planning.
Well, I mean, I was born in Texas. I've spent a lot of time in Texas, and it is something that I also have noted being, I guess, unique about Texas and that area of the country is that they like their roads.
We also could have spent more time on the attributes game. That is, throw that into the next party, conversation, whatever. That is always a fascinating conversation to ask somebody, what would they take away from themselves if it meant adding something else? And you find out, you just get a look into somebody's soul and what they think of themselves. It's amazing.
I just like how it was, obviously not how he was saying it, but it was just like, I'm so jacked, I can afford to lose a little bit to be a little taller.
But I wouldn't do that. Like that, I get it. I get why he would do it. Because like he doesn't need to have big upper body as a hockey player. Most hockey players don't have a gigantic upper body.
It's all in the booty.
It's all in the lower body. But like as a NARP, as a NARP, no chance I'm giving up like physique to get like 3 inches.
Yeah, I mean,
because what am I gonna do with 5'9"? Then I'm just fucking boring.
It's your short king superpower. Also, I did this on 5'6". That was not derogatory. You're 5'6".
Yeah.
That stuns me.
Do you think I was shorter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm 5'6".
Whoa. I would have guessed Sean, how tall did you think Pete was?
I
make it
hadn't
weird.
thought about it. I am not good with heights.
Same.
So, I mean, if you would have told me you were 5'8", I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, you threw up the air quotes, and I was like, "What the fuck is like?" If I'm gonna
It
lie
was-
about
that
it,
did
if I'm
seem
gonna
shady.
lie about a height, I'm not gonna say that I'm 5'6".
Yeah, no, I feel like we would have discussed our heights at some point, but when you said 5'6", I was like, oh fuck, I've had you wrong. And I don't consider you short just because I'm used to you. But like, I don't know. I guess not in a bad way. I had you just like a little
Just don't
lower.
like the implication that you thought I was
the
fucking
quotes in the moment
lying.
definitely
Well, now you're
seem
being.
like
Oh no. Okay,
5'6",
good. I was gonna
okay,
say,
you
if
5'3"
anything,
motherfucker.
be offended that I thought you were lying. Don't be offended
That's
that
why
I'm like, I thought you were shorter.
No,
because who cares if somebody thought you were shorter?
Yeah, like when you meet a new person and you're like, "Oh yeah, he's 5'6", and throw up the air quotes. It's like, listen, I'm trying to have a respectful discussion with a fellow short king
The
about
short boys are
how,
talking.
about how proud we are to be short. That's why I asked him the question, like, "Hey, do you fudge your numbers?"
I couldn't tell if he. We didn't get a real clear answer on do you consider yourself a short guy? And he was like, some idiots do.
I mean,
That's their problem.
I do like that energy.
Yeah. Even though all of our questions were like, so you're short.
Well, like when you're 5'8" as a professional athlete in hockey, like you're kind of beating the odds to be considered a really, really great player and have a nice career ahead of you. Like he is so good that he is 5'8" and was a second round pick.
Back to the jacked stuff. Your muscles are if you have ADD, you've probably heard of the ADD superpower, which is you can't really pay attention to things that don't interest you a lot, but anything that does interest you and things that you're good at, you are going to be really good at and really locked in on those things. That's the ADD superpower. Your short king superpower is if you work out,
Ain't got nowhere else to
you're
go.
going to be, because I've heard people, I was talking to someone recently, they were like, I was like really focusing on my lower body, like the whole like don't skip leg day thing. Like I was relentless trying to like build my lower body and my calves and all stuff, and just like nothing was happening. So frustrating. And that does happen where like some bodies just don't respond as much to it. You've got a body that as long as you put in the work, you're pretty much promised results. That is a short king superpower.
100%.
Love it. And you're an honest man.
Yes.
Despite the accusation.
I didn't even realize I was throwing out that accusation, but that's absolutely what I was doing. That I was like, no, I didn't mean that. I know though that this does mean. I didn't mean the first part or any of it really. Oh well.
By the way, we didn't. We were talking about jerseys and stuff. You're wearing your shirt that we talked about.
Yeah,
last
the
week.
Nathan McKinnon
Oh,
shirt
yes.
from our friend Katie. This is the inaugural wear. So shout out
That
to
is a dope
Katie.
shirt.
Incredible Nathan McKinnon shirt. I was gonna pair it with the Colorado Avalanche hat, but I felt like it would have been a little bit
Bad form.
Would have been a little much to welcome in Logan Stankoven while wearing a
Divisional.
division rival.
Yeah. I was wearing the very Kings shirt. Sean, you want to throw yourself on there? The very Kings shirt that Sean was wearing. We both walked in, said, "What's up, my king?" And we were like, it'd be kind of weird doing
One
a
of us
lot.
got to change.
What's that?
One of us has got to change.
Yeah, like hammering Western Conference.
I mean, also people don't see me unless we're having this conversation. So,
Sean, we see you.
yeah, I appreciate that.
you need
You
to
are
start
seen.
putting yourself on screen more.
Yeah.
than
I
you-
More
just
than
did-
us.
It's a process because then I have to like move my hand and press a different button, and then it's just like by the time that happens,
sounds like he's got some Ken Holland to him.
Yeah. Big Ken Holland energy. Something I meant to bring up with Logan, but he was just such a nice young man. I wanted to say, you're an exciting young player who wears a normal number. He wears 11. Disappointing. I want him wearing a weirder number.
I think he wore 57 when he first came into the league. Or during camp or
there
something.
was a time where he had a funky number going on, but I know that Kamloops he was doing 11, that Texas Stars he was doing 11.
Oh, I should have asked him. Damn, I wish you asked him this now because I wonder if he wears 11 because
Makes it look taller.
Elongating number.
Yes. I think that we are ascribing a lot of self-doubt when it comes to height, that he is not projecting. Like I'm not getting any of that off.
No.
But we're for sure putting it on him.
Yeah.
Should be like Logan Stankoven tonight scored 2 goals, beating the odds because he hates how short he is. He freaks out about it. He is.
They didn't get any of that energy from him.
Yeah,
But
he is wasting away trying to lose his
allegation-
muscle so he can get taller.
the
Because
allegation is that 11 is like the most elongating number you can choose.
it's very slimming. But maybe he's doing that to kind of get, because he's so built up top that he's trying to like get that shit a little slimmer. We discuss a lot of ridiculous hockey things on this show. Nothing will be more, I'm confident, more preposterous than the discussion we're about to have, because it is about an absolutely ridiculous movie. We saw the trailers a few weeks ago, actually very recently. They were like, coming next week,
Yeah.
this movie called Minor Leaguers, starring Teemu Selänne, Brett Hull, and some other people. And Brett Hull and Teemu Selänne are fighting, and it's it just looked like a real mess of shit. And we wanted to find out, is it actually? We were obviously always going to watch it, but Katie Nolan also got in on the fun. So here is our review of this insane movie with Katie Nolan. Movie time with Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Hi. We're doing this minor league movie because I believe we were planning on doing it anyway. Pete tweeted, "This movie looks weird." You saw Pete's tweet, watched the trailer, and then we roped you in.
Yeah, it really worked out perfectly. It's an internet success story.
I bet you're going to think twice about responding to any sort of movie things that I tweet from now on.
I don't know what it is, Pete. You're always at the top of my algorithm, so I can't really help it. If you tweet something dumb, I'm going to like it. So here we are.
So you also don't just fucking click normal feed. I like, my friends are gone. I only, it's whatever For You gives me, which is
Yeah, I don't. Once they switched it so that you don't notice that you've selected For You, like once it started you there, that's when I was screwed, because I'm not paying attention to that top tab. I'm diving right into the tweets. I'm here for the content.
There's so many bad things about the new For You, but I think the worst thing is that anybody who's like starts a story about like, I saw this tweet the other day, and then they like get 3 words into it, and I'm like, of course we've all seen that tweet. We've all get that on our algorithm now.
what is it?
Like, just like when somebody starts to be like, I saw this tweet the other day, and they start to tell the story, they get 3 words into it. I'm like, yeah, I've seen that too. We all have the same page now. The same
that's what
landing
you
page.
thought.
You're saying
And
in
then-
real life.
Yes,
Yes, especially us. We're like,
We have the same feed.
at the beginning, for some reason, I remember you were like, "Are you getting a lot of death on your For You?" And I was like, "No, I'm getting a lot of like depression," which like, good job, but
Tracks.
like I was not getting death, and it took a while for them to like take. And you were saying like you were seeing like people getting hit by cars and shit.
Yeah, like very, very like violent deaths, murders, just straight up. Lot of varieties of death.
You know what
now
this is?
that's been mainly replaced. There's just a lot of boobs.
This is
my
okay.
timeline.
So I'm getting boobs now too. This
Yeah.
is giving. This is giving. I think it's Knocked Up when one of the Apatow kids says, "I googled murder." You
No, my
Googled what
algorithm
it's-
is just mine's just Blake Lively drama right now. I feel like that's
Same.
all the internet wants me to have. And I'm like, I didn't have an opinion on this lady either way, but starting to think she might not be great. I don't know everything. I don't know what anything is now. Anything I see on the internet, I'm like, this could be real. When I first saw the Jordan Childs having to give her medal back, I'm like, this isn't real. I don't know who this is coming from. This is just random news. Nothing. That website's ruined. I really think we should all stop using it, but none of us are going to.
No.
It ends with us. That drama now is like, don't worry, darling, but way less
Yes.
interesting.
So I was going to say, I'm going to be pissed if it turns out this is good drama, because I am tuckered out from Don't Worry, Darling. And Don't Worry, Darling at least ended up being a fascinatingly bad movie.
Yeah.
Like one of the worst, like most unintentionally racist movies I've ever seen in my life. At least they made a horrible thing together, but that took all of my energy. That was like 3 months of my life, because I was hanging on every stupid little slight that may have happened, that now I got no more energy for stuff like that.
Well,
And it's
see,
like-
the only interesting thing about the It Ends With Us drama is that we don't really know what happened, but you can see Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' like high powered PR firm taking over and putting stories out to try to swing the narrative. So it's almost like a meta drama because we don't care what actually happened. We just know they all unfollowed this guy and that the guy is the only one bringing up that the movie's about domestic violence in the interviews, whereas like Blake and everybody else is like, bring your girlfriends, hot guys, floral dresses. It'll be a fun summer movie. And the guy is like, it's a movie about domestic violence. It's not a fun summer movie. But then all the articles coming out from like people say that he's a bad guy and they're all on it. But it's like, it just seems like they paid for them to say that. I don't know. That's why I'm into it. Clearly balls deep into
Has
this
there
drama.
been a spitting incident? I need a spitting incident.
No.
No
And
spitting.
did the spitting actually happen in that spitting incident, or was that all just?
So they believed Harry Styles gave Chris Pine the old Hawk Tua. Is
Yep.
that what they thought?
That is
going on?
correct. Yep.
Sometimes you gotta spit on that thing.
Yeah. Second show in a row, we'll say. Shout out Hawk Tua, girl, kid, whatever you want to call her.
Girl.
It's not her fault. We discussed last
No.
week. Did you see the Bill Maher thing with her?
Yeah. Yes.
It's
God,
so fucking
Bill Maher
uncomfortable.
Bill Maher having that creepy podcast in those creepy chairs has always bothered me. But with her,
Thank
it's
you.
extra weird.
Thank you.
I
What
don't
is
know
the
if-
deal with that stupid podcast and that
What is the
set?
deal with that stupid guy?
I don't
What
know.
is that guy's
He
deal? He's
stinks.
got to be the biggest loser on the planet.
Yeah.
I don't know if
pretty
you
much.
remember, Katie, but the old brunch setup that we had, which was a room in Pete's house. And
Yeah.
it's like, there's only a small amount of space. We put a camera there and we put 2 chairs there. It is exactly the same thing as what cajillionaire Bill Maher is cultivating on purpose to make himself look cool. We were
Not to
trying
go too far on a tangent, but did you see when he interviewed Richard Dreyfuss? Did you see that
No.
clip by any chance? For some reason, and maybe I'm getting the actor wrong, maybe it wasn't Richard Dreyfuss, and I'll Google it. For some reason, the entire interview, he's sitting in the chair and he just slowly slides down.
Wait,
till at some
Dreyfuss?
point, yes, right?
Yes,
and he's
I saw
just
this.
sitting like at the bottom of the seat, just answering questions. It's absolutely batshit. It feels like a fever dream, that podcast.
Richard Dreyfuss, a rare example of a man who has gotten worse looking with age.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
started off as hot as could be. Dreyfuss in Jaws, fucking kill me, Katie. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Every fit, every look, fucking take me out on a boat and blow me up, quite frankly. And now he just looks like such a bad stuffed
Pete,
animal.
are you Googling him? Are you
Kind
looking
of.
at his
Yeah,
face?
I'm looking up to see what he looks like now. But also, wasn't there something that happened like a year or so ago where they had like a Jaws reunion night and did like a live thing on stage, and he just like suddenly went into some very
I've heard he's not,
problematic tirade.
I think
Yeah.
I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember something about him that somebody, I don't know. That's how the world is now. I'm like, I remember you have something. I'll Google what it is.
Katie,
But I
you
remember
seem
there's
like
something.
you maybe had have you ever listened to Pantera?
I mean, a song or two.
Okay, so I was on the radio yesterday, and for some reason we were talking about Pantera, and I know that they used to do a lot of like stars and bars imagery, and that was a big part of their look. And I listened to them when I was a kid, and as I was learning about American history, I was very confused as to why they would do that. And then they talked about like, oh, people in the South like that flag for some reason. Anyway, somebody at some point was like, hey, that's racist, stop doing it. And Phil Anselmo, the lead singer of the band, was like, oh, sorry, fuck. And they stopped doing it. And I was like, great, like he knew better, so he did better. So I was on the radio giving this guy his flowers, and then somebody was like, well, what about a couple of years ago where he was yelling white power on stage? And I did not know about that. And I was like, all right, maybe I shouldn't defend this guy before I know everything they did. So I just did that with Dreyfuss.
During a screening of Jaws at the Cabot Theater in Beverly, Massachusetts on May 27th, 2024.
Shout out
This was like
Beverly,
2 months ago.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, great day to be a goal. Hell yeah. Dreyfuss criticized diversity initiatives and launched into what was described as a transphobic, misogynistic, homophobic, and sexist rant, causing many attendees to shout at the actor and to leave the venue in dismay.
What?
This guy checked all the boxes
was
and
gonna
people he
say.
was offending.
My goodness.
I
He
couldn't
really
even
hit for the cycle.
I couldn't, if I had to like write something for like a bad movie, like the movie we're about to discuss, someone's like, all right, a character goes into a transphobic rant. I couldn't come up with a transphobic. We said
Oh, I
last week.
definitely could. I mean, the Olympics just happened.
Well,
The-
you
the
know the
Olympics
fucking
was-
things they hit, but it just like we never in real life actually are like thinking and talking about gender.
That's the thing.
It
That's the
doesn't
thing. That's
fucking
why
matter to
whenever the
us.
transphobic rants happen, they always make you just go, because it's like, no, we're not. What? No one's. What does that have to do with anything? They
Yeah, like, why
always
did that come up for
spin
you?
off into these things that you're like, what is? Are you okay? Like, it's batshit. The reaction to that boxer, batshit, absolute batshit. Everybody's lost their minds.
Shout out Pablo Torre. I know that you do his podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out, which I love. I believe the first episode was, I forget what state it was, but they were scared that politicians were saying that trans athletes were coming and taking the kids' jobs and they were taking the roster spots. And he found there was one trans athlete in that state, a softball player, and she fucking sucked. So he went to like interview her about how bad she was at softball, and it was like one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. But let's talk about this movie, Minor Leaguer, from Dan Comrie. All right, here's the synopsis. Pete knows I love synopsis. Minor Leaguer is a 2024 sports comedy based on the fictional Old West Hockey League, aka the Owl. For some reason, Winnipeg Jets legend Teemu Selänne buys a team in California, prompting Brett Hull to buy a rival team. Solanni's ego and unethical practices present major problems for everyone except a guy named Sniff, who battles a closeted bully for Amy's affection. Mainly, though, there's an uninteresting person named Jake, and everyone makes everything about him because Jake wrote the movie.
Oh my God. Perfect. Actually, perfectly done.
He's like weirdly good at writing synopses.
And I did it while we were having a conversation.
This is the most difficult movie to write a synopsis for because it's about nothing and everything at the same time.
There are so many subplots and yet no plot. It's fascinating.
No hockey in this movie
whatsoever.
Honestly, I wrote that. I said at this point, we've seen literally no hockey. You never see a single fake hockey. I don't even think we see a piece of hockey equipment.
Well, in fairness, even if they showed it, Katie, you probably wouldn't know, because if this movie taught us anything, it's that women don't know anything about sports.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. At that point, I feel like I had stopped. We'll get to it, but at that point, I think I had stopped like taking notes, and I think I just wrote "fuck" in capital letters. So I don't even know that I have a detailed breakdown of every time this movie made me feel upset.
The women in this movie are, so there's a sex worker, of course. Mm-hmm. There's a
with a business card.
What's that?
With a business card.
Hell
when
yeah.
that one night stand leaves, she gives him a business card.
Shout out American Psycho. Got a better one than any of the rest of them. There is a love interest who is hopelessly ignorant when it comes to hockey. And
works for the team.
And she works
as
for
a
the
job
team.
with the team, does not understand what hockey is.
Shout out that movie with Kevin James where he plays Sean Payton, because Chloe Fineman also works for the team. And he's like, hey, woman who works for the team, find a list of the best running backs in the draft. And she's like, got it. And she turns away and she's like, one more thing, Mr. Payton.
Oh, no.
What's a running back? And he's like, oh, right. Sorry. I forgot.
Also, the things that
first of all, asking your secretary of your NFL team to
who
find
are the
you
good running backs.
It's not a fantasy
Not that they have a
draft.
full scouting department.
also the things that she was learning about hockey, just like what a biscuit and what a tilly is. You know the whole game now. You know the whole sport.
It's the most important stuff.
Hockey has been part of my life forever. I swear to God, I don't know what a tilly is.
I
Don't
said
need
the
to
same
know.
thing. I feel so relieved. I was like, a tilly? I don't think I've ever
I
heard
did
anybody
know,
even
but
say that.
Like Tilly is, I'm more familiar with the store Tillies than I am by saying Tilly.
Agreed.
Yeah,
There was
it's
a-
just like not common parlance, if you will.
No.
We went to an event early in this show's history, and it had a ton of hockey people, including a lot of young hockey people who were very excited about hockey and talking about hockey the way they talk about hockey. My mind was blown because I didn't know a word they were saying. And I just knew they were very excitable young men and that they had a lot of words they were very confident meant hockey things. So Sean and I got really into it. And because these people didn't know us, we were like, let's just talk like them. And Pete had to like grab my arm and say like, stop it. They're gonna, and I'm like, they don't know us. They don't. So everything we were like, oh, they got fucking sodas. Oh, boys.
This guy's a fucking beauty.
You guys are just openly mocking the hockey
I love
influencers
that.
at a hockey
Our
influencer
characters
I love
were named
that.
Logan and Logan.
I forgot about that part. This is the best fucking burger I've ever had, buddy.
It ruled. So let's talk about this movie. Selänne buys the team, and fucking Jake, called it
Jake.
right out the gate. They showed a young Jake at the beginning of this movie, and I was like, I'm not gonna fucking like Jake. They say, get ready to speak Jake, buddy. They make everything about Jake. He's from Winnipeg. He's playing. He says, like, I'm 33. I don't know what I'll do next. No, you're not. I Googled you right away.
Yeah.
You're 37, and you look
Oh,
100.
this brings up a question that I have. This movie feels like, obviously, the release date, 2024. It feels like it was made during the pandemic. Does it not? It feels like it took a while to go from filming to release.
Lot of green screen, lot of ADR.
Yeah.
A lot of bad ADR. It looked like they made this movie under a lot of restraints. And they did, but the restraints were the people who made the movie.
Yes. Jake is like the poorest, most off-brand Shoresy that has ever existed.
Yes.
That has ever existed. He also
Yes.
looks like JD Vance if JD Vance dressed like the main character from Recess.
Yes.
The Recess thing was amazing. Yes. What's that kid's name?
No idea.
But he looks
Max?
like him. I also said he looks like Peter Dinklage if like something horrible happened to Peter Dinklage. His face is kind of like it, but he has like this terrible body, even though he works out way more than I do. I just felt very comfortable feeling bad about how he looked. That's not
He
nice
just
of me to
also
say.
was constantly like, this is the face.
Yeah. Yeah, he was
You're
like,
just like,
trying to be
open your
smoldering.
eyes, bro. Yeah, like, what are we doing, dude? He is the most annoying main character with the dumbest motivations. Can we talk about the fact that this kid, the setup for us is that he was obsessed with Teemu Selänne, and then he's playing for a hockey team in his ripe old age of 50, and Teemu Selänne walks in the door and buys the team. Your childhood hero buys the team, but tells you that you can't wear the number you only wear because Teemu Selänne wears it. Because he's like, I'm going to take my own number back. And then now you hate Teemu Selänne more than anything on earth because he wants back the number that is his and is why you wear it. That makes absolutely no sense.
Also, objectively speaking, if Teemu Selänne's buying some whale shit, to use a Shoresy term, like minor league hockey team, selling his jersey with his number on it is an objectively good idea.
Yes,
Yeah, no,
100%.
we were watching on
they can get other good players if he sells Teemu Selänne jerseys.
Yes.
We were doing a big Discord watch along with some whatnuts, and everybody was like, wait, are we supposed to be on this kid's side here? He's being a real prima donna when he's admitted, I'm wearing your number. This movie does a great job of making people that are not supposed to look bad. Jake is established, even though he's supposed to be the main character and the protagonist. He is, I think Amy's actually the protagonist. We'll circle back on that. But he's supposed to be the protagonist, and he looks like an asshole out of the gate. Why did Teemu Selänne do this movie at all? It makes him look like such an asshole in the movie, and it makes him look in real life like an idiot who does this movie. Not like
yes, but also like the way that Teemu Selänne is portrayed in this movie is so cartoonish that I don't think anybody would ever hold it against him that he like did this movie. Like he was probably like, oh, this is a very self-degrading thing. It can be endearing, which fine. The fact that Teemu Selänne did this movie and it's such a bad movie makes me hate him more than like his character.
Yeah.
And Jake comes away looking like the biggest asshole here because the guy that wrote Jake is the guy who plays Jake, and I think that he tried to make himself look good. He tried to do the Bradley Cooper himself. Tried to make himself look good and cool. Crazy. And he comes away looking like the biggest loser in the world besides Bill Maher.
This movie feels, I love that. This movie feels like it was written as they filmed it. It has such school project energy that feels like
Yes.
you write a scene and then when you're done with that scene, you're just like, okay, so then we'll walk to the park and I'll teach you about hockey. And then, okay, so we're done with that scene. Okay, then let's do a video of a personal trainer from the internet. We'll just throw him in there for kind of no reason. He'll come back later. And then we'll just randomly have him be in the town dating the girl it just feels like every single decision they made was like, okay, next we'll go to this location and we'll film this. And nobody ever went, but that doesn't really fit with but how does that move the plot forward? No second question was ever asked about any idea proposed for a scene in this film. That's how I feel.
It just executed so poorly. Every time every time anything was on a screen or somebody was speaking, it looked and sounded the exact same. So if somebody was on a podcast, there's a lot of podcast scenes in this, or if somebody's on TV, it looks and has the same exact definition, brightness, everything as any other scene. So somebody will be watching TV.
Such a niche complaint about this movie. There is much to
He's
complain
right,
about.
though. Like execution-wise, it matters.
I mean,
Such a film movie critique.
So like if we're doing a video and we include something from something else, whether it's a clip of a game or a clip of ourselves earlier, I'll like change the brightness a little bit, add a teeny bit of noise just so it looks like, okay, well, this is not the same thing as the other thing. It is so hard to keep track of. The only reason that you knew something was on TV was like sometimes they'd remember to put a lower third on there. But otherwise, it just all looks and sounds the same. Total mess.
Yeah. And there's so much narration to like try to advance the plot rather than actually showing anything.
But then it goes away for large swaths. So then when it comes back, you're like, oh, a VO. Have we done this already? I don't remember. It's a mess.
Teemu Selänne goes away for like 40 minutes in the middle of this movie. It's like, did he get injured? Where is he?
We haven't even mentioned Brett Hull yet. Brett Hull, if I do have a pro of this movie, it's that Brett Hull looks like he's having the best time.
His character fucking ruled. I loved Brett Hull.
His character, by the way, is Brett Hull.
He's just there to fuck shit up. He doesn't need to be there. Like I said in the synopsis, the only reason he enters the picture is because he hears Teemu Selänne, with whom he had a rivalry on the ice a million years ago, bought a minor league team. So he's like, I'm buying a minor league team. And at every turn, he is just trying to fuck shit up. And at any point, somebody could say, Brett Hull, why are you here? And he would have to respond, because I'm in the movie. I fucking love Brett Hull.
My takeaway from this for Brett Hull was that like Brett Hull is, if you take this movie at face value, like sickly obsessed with Teemu Selänne. Like the fact that
more so than Jake.
Yes. The fact that every single decision he makes is just based on trying to fuck with Teemu Selänne, like going out of his way to buy a team, going out of his way to find, hire, and scheme with a Gary Bettman impersonator to try to fool some absolute idiot commissioner of this owl league. It's like an insane, who's that random other character that's like Brett Hull's friend? And is he ever introduced to us or is he just fucking there?
And what's the relationship?
Sean brought up a great point.
I mean, the optics of it are very odd to me because it's just a character that is not really explained why he's there. And it's just Brett Hull hanging out in a cabin in the middle of nowhere with a significantly younger man. And I'm just like, what is the point of this? What is the actual relationship?
Do they
here?
live there?
Yeah. Do they live? Like, how do they know each other? What's going on?
Apparently they're golf buddies, but like you just going on
a one line throwaway?
Yes.
Okay, here's my thing.
Just
I
an
think
undisclosed amount of time that they're going to hang out together in a remote cabin while Brett Hull just fucks with his arch nemesis.
But that's similar to what you were saying earlier, Kitty. It's just like, it seemed like they wrote this and then we're like, wait a second. Who's Brett Hull talking to? Let's add a guy here.
I think that they probably in the 5 minutes it took to write this film, I think they had jotted down those scenes as if Brett would just be with himself. And I think that they either learned that Brett Hull cannot carry a scene by himself, or that he would get confused, that he like needed somebody else. I could see him not being capable of doing solo work on camera as much as he'd be better if you like give him a guy to talk to. So I could see that being the reason, but plot wise, they did not do enough to make me go, oh, I know who this is. And it makes sense that he's here.
My favorite
Certainly not. But I think that guy has like Dan Comrie probably made a drunk promise to somebody that like, hey, yeah, I'll put you in my movie. And then was like, I have no idea what character I'm going to give this guy, so I'll just make him the guy that stands next to
Was
Brett
he having
Holden.
this conversation with himself?
Maybe.
Where he made a drunk promise that he was going to star in this movie?
So yeah, that's a good point because I at the root of this movie, I kind of like the plot. I like the plot of Teemu Selänne just buying a absolute.
It's
like,
the Mocha Joe episode of Curb. This has already fucking happened.
But I like it. I like that Brett Hull is like, if you take away Jake and all of the
Stinks.
parts outside of the former NHLers, this could be a funny movie.
No, I need Sniff as well.
Okay, fine.
I do need Sniff.
I have a very specific Brett Hull complaint. At one point when he's fucking with Teemu, and Teemu has the Finnish Flash sign.
Oh my God, yeah.
And then it says the Finnish Flash.
Oh, I love this. I love this.
And-
I wrote this down too.
And then he puts a piece of paper over it that says Flash of shit. But he writes Flash on the piece of paper, even though Flash is already on the sign. Instead of just putting a thing under it that says of shit, he writes Flash of shit. It drove me like instantly. I was like, what the, why? There was no reason for that.
My favorite Brett Hull moment, and this goes back to just the execution and Katie, you were saying just like the lack of eyes that were on this thing, the lack of like, hey, do we want to take that again? They're sitting around yucking it up. Brett Hull's phone dings and he's like, this is how it happens in real time. He's like, ding. Look at this text message I got. He hands it to his buddy. His buddy then reads out loud. He's like, hi, Brett. It's me, the commissioner of blah, blah, and reads like a 4-hour-long text message. Brett Hull just has like photographic memory or something.
No, Brett, that I interpreted that as Brett Hull can't read. Brett Hull.
He's like, I think I got a text message. Check this out. I think
read
it's
this
funny.
and please read it out loud if you could. Thank you.
Slowly. Please read slowly.
Well, just in case like somebody's like spying on us, or I don't know, just say the words, please.
While we're talking about minor details that really bothered us, there was one line in this film, I don't even remember where it was because all I wrote was, what a reference, where they said, maybe it's like that movie Big Fish.
Yes, where they're just
A
talking
movie
about
that I have
exaggerating.
seen.
Yes,
And it's a movie I have seen. Oddly, it was like a movie that I really liked as I was a child when it came out, and I was like, I love this. This is great. What a reference to just maybe it's like that movie Big Fish. Did it even win any awards? Was it like a popular film?
Oh yeah, Big Fish did well.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But like
still a random reference.
But if you're gonna say a Teemu Selänne Brett Hull hockey movie is going to reference one movie in it, I don't think Big Fish would be the one that I'd select in the top 100 choices.
So weird. So weird. Also, was that Teemu Selanne's real wife in that movie, or was that a woman that they cast?
What's this? What's
Was
the
that
question?
Teemu Selanne's real wife?
Oh, no, that's his wife.
Okay.
I should note, Big Fish has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, the same score as Wedding Crashers, Monster House, Devil Wears Prada, Sleepless in Seattle, and 8 Mile. Shout out my Tomato Fights document.
There you go. There's also, like, you talk about the Finnish Flash of shit thing. This movie tries to do the Shoresy thing where it's like it's going to be insult porn, but every insult is either just like fuck you or fucking asshole.
Motherfucker.
Yes.
Motherfucker. Fuck. It's a very fuck heavy film.
There's a rant at one point from Jake in which he says fuck every other word.
The tennis one
as
on
a
the tennis court.
podcast where we've both been criticized for saying the fuck word.
Yeah, we'll go there,
far
Katie.
too much. Far too much. And we listen back and we're like, damn, we did say fuck a lot. This movie, oh my God, unbearable how much they say
like,
fuck.
Because it really makes you see how, people will always be like, when you use curse words, it's because it's filler because you're not properly communicating. And you're always like, yeah, shut up, nerd. This really was when you see like the way that fuck was used was like, yeah, these guys don't know how to write. They don't know how to write an angry rant where every other word isn't fuck. Literally,
and it was a fantasy sequence. Like it wasn't even a real sequence. So in Jake's mind, that was the best that he could do.
He can't even imagine himself
concocted in his own brain.
And
can't even imagine himself giving a good speech. That's how bad he is.
And it was written. I say fuck a lot because it is my vocalized pause, where as a little break. It's right. I try to use it instead. I don't try. I just unfortunately do. I use it instead of I still say like a bit, but whatever. Nobody's perfect. This person wrote this and put, if I were to try to script an episode of this show, I wouldn't have us saying fuck every 3 seconds. We just say it because that's what, as Katie said, when we don't have the word, we say fuck. This was written, although as Katie asked earlier, was it?
Was it?
Was this really written?
In another case of that, there's a scene where Teemu Selänne's on the phone, I believe, with a friend, and they try to do the movie. It's like a vehicle of like, oh, time is passing and he's still talking. But every time they cut away to like 15 minutes, it's always 15 minutes later. They keep cutting away to a clock to show that time has passed. But instead of it passing by like half an hour or like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it's always 15 or 10 minutes. And he's saying things that then later, those are the 3 things that get refuted. I know this is confusing, but if you've seen the movie, it's like they act like he won't stop talking and that he's listing millions and millions of things, but we only hear 3 of them. And then we see cutaways to a clock to show that he's still talking. But then later in that sequence, when Jake's yelling at him in his dream, he brings up the 3 specific things that he found proof against. It makes no sense. It's so poorly written. And it's just like they find a way to waste time in a 1 hour and 15 minute film.
There is so much filler in a 1 hour
It's
and 17-minute
fascinating.
movie. There's like a 4-minute dance scene from the commissioner as he's leaving his house.
Which is good, by the way. That was good.
Because there was no writing involved.
Yeah.
Another Selänne thing that I guess is kind of in defense of him or his character. Like when the owners are having the vote about letting Brett Hull into the thing and they're all just shitting on Teemu, like all of their complaints are so invalid. Like the one guy complained about Teemu beating him in tennis in front of his family. Like he expected Teemu to let you win because your family's there. Then the next person was upset that that Teemu simply suggested like, hey, if you want a new name, I'm good at coming up with those. And they're like, fuck you. You think my name's not good enough? Which is not what he was saying. And then he offered to buy someone else's suit, which I get was kind of backhanded. But it was just like, all of these there's plenty of examples of Teemu being a piece of shit in this movie. But the only things you can come up with are like borderline at best him being a bad person.
Yeah, right. As you said, this guy, his ethics
are so
awful.
shot.
Just absolutely terrible. This scene, by the way, Katie, that you were referencing, he is one in which he's sitting down with Sniff and telling him a bunch of stories of himself. Now that you've noted that this conversation or this waxing poetic or self-flagellation on the part of Teemu Selänne is at least 45 minutes long, if you were to have anybody tell stories about themselves for 45 minutes and only 3 of them end up being not true, Teemu Selänne, stand-up guy. I would run out of good stories about myself or good qualities I have after like a minute and a half.
That's a good point too.
Also, technically, the story where he was like, Roger Federer has never beaten me. Technically true, because you just never played him. Like that was like that wasn't that much of a lie. It was just framed poorly.
I think that Teemu Selänne's only like provision in this movie was like, hey, make sure I look good at tennis. Because there's like several like good Teemu Selänne tennis things in this.
You can come at my character, but you do not come at my tennis chops. We have to talk about Sniff because Sniff is a hopeless romantic who, after one date with somebody, knows that she's the one and gets really nervous around girls, especially the fetching Amy, who is the apple of his eye. She runs by him one time, and that's all he needs. They're in love. He sweats on their first date, which is at her grandmother's house, and he's outside, as Pete noted, in the heat, when we were talking before, in the heat, and he's sweating. She comes out, and she's like, hey, sweat much? And he says, oh, I'm sorry, I'm allergic to cats, and that's why I'm sweating.
Bold thing to say, because as a viewer, you're like, she must have a cat. Why else would he take such a swing? But moments later, she's like, well, that's weird, because I don't have a cat.
On the second date, he gets a call from his mom. She answers it for some reason. And the mother of...
Oh, no, because he says they spend 4 minutes on him being like, no, I don't need to pick it up. And she's like, it's your mom. Pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick it up, Sniff.
She answers it, and she's like, hello, Amy speaking. I'm under the impression Sniff has a cat allergy. And Sniff's mom says, what? No, he doesn't.
Not
And
only does he not have a cat allergy, he was inseparable with his now dead cat.
that's true.
Yes.
Yo, what? That's the
Betrayal.
best part.
The cat didn't need to be dead.
She's speaking to the mom.
The cat could have still been
Killed
alive
the cat for
for no
reason.
reason at all.
She's speaking to his mom for the first time after they've known each other for like 3 minutes. And the amount of time it takes to debunk the only piece of information Sniff has given Amy is just, it's so quick.
Another thing with Sniff, why are his clothes still at his mom's house? He lives somewhere else.
Maybe
Sniff
that's the laundry.
clearly-
I guess that's true.
He's clearly got. I mean, the kid can't even think on his feet enough to say he's sweating because it's hot outside.
He's on the spectrum
Clearly,
somewhere.
yeah. His name's Sniff. You know.
Or there's this movie does a bad job at handling mental health because Sniff obviously suffers from a
Crippling social anxiety.
real social anxiety, I won't say unrealistic lack of confidence, because a lot of people do just like really, really, really lack in confidence, unfortunately. He has so little confidence, and all of these scenes, I'll just say they don't handle the mental health thing well, especially when things go awry with Amy and they cut to him writing a note. And
Oh my God.
you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, are they doing this in this movie?
I did
They
think. Well,
cut to him
you know
writing a
what?
note. The chat in our Discord movie night was like, oh my God.
They're like, this movie is not trying to
Sniff's
handle
gonna
this.
do it.
Here's the thing. The
Crazy.
reason that I definitely think we all thought he was going to kill himself was because the scene before, when the random YouTube workout guy starts
Myth.
dating Amy, what's his name?
Mitt.
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 I was going
Like
to say
Rami,
Miff and
but-
Sniff is crazy.
She's got a
Mitt, okay.
type.
So when she starts dating Mitt or whatever, and Mitt tells her that he saw him out in the yard, I'm like, he's not going to say he saw him jerking off, right? This movie's not going to do that. And then it does. Not only that, he says choking his chicken. That's the first way he describes it to this girl he's dating, that he was out, that this man who was essentially, I don't know, sexually assaulting or like performing sexual violence on her. He used the phrase choking the chicken. Not like,
That's
yeah,
how-
I'm so sorry
that's how
that
out of
man
touch
was
this
touching
movie is.
himself. Yeah,
That's
it's
how out
great.
of touch this movie is, because this was up with the times. Sniff would have been out there gooning. Would have been out there gooning on the front yard.
Another thing about that is she eventually watched the
I
security
was going
footage.
to bring that up.
Which one of two, like, there's two possibilities here. Either you do it immediately because you're like, I need to, like, I want
See
the
that?
proof of
Because I'm
this.
kind of into that. Yeah.
Oh,
totally.
well, at the very least, you're like, someone just made a really wild accusation. I want to see I want to know that they're telling the truth. But late, like days removed, with nothing really having changed in the relationship, she's like, I'm gonna go back and see him masturbate.
Amy thought on it. She sat for a while.
prayed
and was
on it.
like, I'm going to see if Sniff was actually going
She let it marinate just a little bit. And then she watched the security footage at her grandmother's house to check if the really sweet guy who is too nervous to speak to people is masturbating on somebody's front lawn.
And not the guy who was walking around in public just like lifting up his shirt to show like his like 3.5 pack when he does YouTube videos about like just being the most obnoxious fitness influencer.
Yeah.
That guy was just the worst.
Also, the
The
letter
worst.
that he left her, that she immediately ripped up, but then saved for whatever reason and put back together later. Like she took the letter and ripped it up immediately, but kept it and like didn't throw it in the trash or anything because it wasn't like it was crumpled up. Like she just ripped it in half and then kept the two halves for no real reason.
I hate to pull rank as the synopsis god among us. Sniff, you need a little help with that letter. That was not a good note. If that is your note to try to win somebody back, it's like, dear Amy, I wish you were not as mad. Love, Sniff. That's the fucking like thing that they show him writing where we're worried this guy's gonna fucking die, and it's just that. Bad job.
But it's like the Drake response to Kendrick's diss, where it's like if you have to spend half the note being like, I wasn't jerking off on your front lawn, you've already lost. Drake had to spend half a diss track being like, hey, I'm not a pedophile.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to win this rap battle. It's like, no, you're not. You already lost.
Yeah. Can we talk about the podcasting element of it? Because a rival
Were
podcast.
you guys upset? Were you guys butthurt by this?
Well, like 5 minutes into the movie, I said in the Discord, I was like, I have no movie making experience, and I consider myself, and Pete does as well, I am terrible with a camera in my hand, but I am very confident I could have made something that certainly was funnier or more interesting than, and looked better than all of this. Then we saw the podcast part, and we were like, okay, we could have at least done this.
Sure, but it feels like a bullet dodge. Number one, like the Missing Curfew guys, I don't know much about them. They seem like nice guys. It seems like a show that a lot of people like. I'm happy that they were asked to do this. If we were asked to do this and like we were pitched to, like, yeah, you just got to interview Teemu Selänne and Brett Hull for this hockey movie we're doing, we would have been like, hell yeah, that sounds fucking awesome. And then this would have came out, and I would have felt
No, it would have been
horrible being
awesome.
attached to it.
Oh,
No,
no, if
a
we
movie like this, you should have been the podcast of record for a movie like this.
Yeah, yes, exactly. I think that we would have been great for this. And we would have, I mean, we're two people who, tongue-in-cheek, ironically, whatever you want to call it, championed the movie Marry Me with Owen Wilson and Jennifer Lopez, because we were like, hey, what if we just spend 3 episodes being dead serious that this is a fucking good movie? We loved it. We could absolutely sell, oh my God, this movie fucking rocked if we were in it. No problem.
I bet we could, but I don't think I'd want to. Like this is not a bad movie. This is not your run-of-the-mill bad movie. This is legitimately one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's the room level production for sure. Or like as far as like how it looks, script, execution, everything was made of that quality. But other than the commissioner twice saying, read the bylaws, fuckface, there isn't an interesting or fun part of this movie. The Room has a lot of that, at least.
Yeah, I mean, them having a romance dissolve in public because she's like, so you don't have a cat allergy, and that being like the big emotional crux of this movie is amazing. So that's
there was a period in the pandemic where Dan and I went and found there's like movies on Amazon, disaster movies, but made with an incredibly low budget. And as I'm sure you can guess, a disaster movie is very difficult to make when you don't have a budget. And so we found this particular niche, and we went and watched probably 4 or 5 movies called like Fire Tornado, I think was one of them, which was that like a tornado came through and hit some sort of a gas company, and it lit on fire, and then that spawned other fire tornadoes. And there were scenes where you would see a fire tornado in the foreground, and if you looked in the background, it was just like a sunny day in a neighborhood because they did not know how to make the effects go. Anyway, those movies were all better, easier to watch, more well written than this movie by a lot.
So you watched this with Dan, right?
Yes.
What was your experience watching the movie? Because I was thankful that we had like the Discord night that was arranged, because I think we were planning on watching it separately, but you like the community aspect of watching this stupid piece of shit together was so important.
We were chatting in the Discord and also texting each other on the side.
Yeah, it was. So it's an hour and 17, I believe we said. And so we started watching it one night this past weekend because I told Dan I had to do this. And he was like, oh, we're watching shitty movies. That's like a pastime of ours. So we were watching it, and we'll, pause it to talk about what shit it is every few minutes. And so we get into what feels like it should be wrapping up. And we hit pause to check the time and saw that there was still 40 minutes left in the movie, and we had to stop. We had to like split it into 2 nights. The world's shortest film, and we had to split it over 2 nights because it was so incomprehensibly bad that I couldn't I needed to sit with that for a minute before I could continue to try to process the rest of them. I had never seen anything this awful in my life.
It did feel pretty interminable for something that is that short. And I don't know about you lot, but sometimes on short flights, that will get me too, where I'm like, oh, it's just a 2-hour flight. This is going to be an absolute breeze. And you're like, don't plan to do anything, and you don't have a movie or anything. And after like half hour, you're like, are we fucking landing yet? Jesus, an hour and a half. So it had some of that, except I was going to make a really dark joke about flying, but at least like flying, you
Not
land and stuff. This was as I said, interminable.
This is like for a 1 hour and 17-minute movie to feel like it was way too long is an incredible accomplishment. Incredible, especially a movie with this many storylines. They had 4,000 storylines, and none of them were interesting or went anywhere or made the movie feel short.
Oh, and the way they wrap it up, by the way, is like, okay, bye. And you're like,
Crazy.
none of this needed to be happening.
I have a question. Do Brett Hull and Teemu Selänne just like fucking hate Gary Bettman? Because they like spent a lot of time trying to be like, I know it was clearly an impersonator, but they were just like, Gary Bettman loves hookers and is a real piece of shit. Like they were trying really hard to get that across.
It felt like fan service to me. It felt like being like, you guys all hate him, right? So here he is. We hate him too. Like there's.
I mean, he walked into the bar and like they had a patron at the bar like stand up immediately and be like, "Fuck you, you piece of shit."
So I'm trying. Is he supposed to be a plant?
He was because they said that they found him the day before or earlier screaming at a waitress. I was just like, so this guy's just a massive piece of shit for no real reason too.
Yes.
I'll say the guy that this is kind of like Tropic Thunder, like. The guy that played the guy in this movie, I thought that actor was good. The guy that played Bettman, good. He and Brett Hull are probably my two shining stars from this movie.
Also, he gave up the whole con way too easily. Like as soon as the commissioner called him, he was like, "I have to tell you, I'm not actually Gary Bettman."
Crazy.
Like, you didn't need it. You could have just kept playing along for a little bit. You gave him the card knowing he was probably going to call you at some point.
Fun fact, the guy who plays Gary Bettman in this movie, his name is Sam the Deuce Casson, and he wrote his own IMDb profile because it starts with, "The Deuce is an extremely talented comic / impressionist and actor. He has over 70 original characters and celebrity impersonations in his repertoire, such as Jackie Mason, Donald Trump, Anthony Cuomo, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Marv Albert, and much more."
Starting with Jackie Mason.
That's weird.
What I want to know is
Gary Bettman's not in that list, by the way.
You said impersonations and original characters. I want to know what those original characters are, because this guy is not like he's a famous person.
I think we can get the Deuce if we want.
I think so too.
If the summer had like another month, we would for sure be doing at least one episode.
What's
with
his
the
last
Deuce.
name?
Casson. Not like Cassian. It's like Cassian without the second A.
I was going to say, it did not strike me as an Armenian.
So the Deuce, come on the podcast, King, as Gary Bettman, though.
Yes.
Only as Gary Bettman.
Yes.
After we saw Blackberry, we wanted to get the guy who plays Gary Bettman to be a regular on this show. And that guy is very good. We need to get the Deuce instead, though.
How many women do you think are in this movie?
Okay, we have One Night Stand Girl at the beginning, which also, what a way to start that fucking movie. Like I don't want to wake up. I just had sex with somebody I don't know. I've got stubble. Fuck you, Jake.
Also from Phoenix. For
credited
no real
as
reason.
One Night Stand.
Yes,
woman, by
I
the
said
way.
that too. Like, why is she from Phoenix? What does that have to do with anything? Why did we waste any time on that scene? Her finding out he's a ranch hand and being like, I thought he was a hockey player. And he's like, you can be both. It's like, what is that some important message that this
Also,
movie
you're in the
feels-
middle of fucking nowhere, California, during a hockey season, I assume, or near the start of hockey season. And she was just
Allegedly.
like, yeah, this NHL player is what she must have thought he was, is just here for no real reason. Like she had to have known that he was not a professional hockey player.
I know that we talked about there being no hockey in this movie. I did write down, are there any other players on this team, or is it just Jake and possibly Justin Bieber?
Well, at one point they say it's and maybe I missed something, but towards the beginning of this movie, they say it's the end of this. It's the biggest game of the season, and we don't have a goalie. And then it never comes up again.
It never comes up
I thought
again.
Sniff was going to get a sniff. I thought they were Sniff, dust off those pads, brother. Also, Sniff is 21, living with a 308-year-old man.
Yeah,
Like that's
no
another
chance
like.
it's anyone.
And they say that they're best friends, but there's not a single scene of good friendship. Like even when Sniff we're wondering if he's about to kill himself and he's turning to his closest friend, Jake seems annoyed. Jake seems like he has no interest in whatever's going on.
Jake's
in Sniff's
like,
life.
you got to figure that out.
He's
man.
like, stop being a bitch, Sniff.
Anyway,
The thing about Sniff is the first thing I noticed about Sniff in this movie is that he's always available in any scene where someone needs someone to talk to. They cut from a scene where like Jake would leave a room that was just Jake and Sniff, and then they would cut to a different room. Sniff is in it, and Jake walks into that room and starts talking. And you're like, what? Does this guy he is wherever he needs to be?
a big complaint that I had
Dan
was
Comrie also edited this movie, so that makes sense too.
yes. A
Who's
big
that?
complaint
That's
that I
Jake?
had.
That's this big. Is Dan Comrie Jake? That's who.
That's
it is?
Jake, yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't.
So
look
when
it up.
Sniff is walking to Amy's house to apologize to her, I'm sorry, Amy's grandma's house to apologize to Amy, as he's walking down the sidewalk, it's the classic, somebody else is coming the other way. Oh no, is this new guy coming to meet Amy? Why did you have to have that character? Why not make that character Brett Hull? It would be such a cooler movie
Oh,
if
whoa.
now he's like, fuck, now I'm going up against Brett Hull. And Brett Hull is just exclusively there to fuck shit up. It would have been such a cooler movie.
But it would have ruined the storyline of Brett Hull and maybe his love interest at the lake house.
That's true.
True. True.
You had asked, we'll finish the list of women in this movie, which takes 5 more seconds in a minute. But you'd asked about us as podcasters in the movie. I did think it would behoove us to esteem this movie as much as possible, because if we can plant the seed that this is good, it's a cool thing you did that movie, we would probably be able to just like write a movie for like Zach Wierenski or something and like get hockey people to be in a movie with us, and we'd give ourselves the cool parts, and then we get to make that kind of movie, and it would be better. Katie would be in it.
I mean, I did tweet. I was like, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I got a couple people pushing back. Anytime you like criticize a movie, they're like, oh, how many movies have you written? Or like, oh, you sound like a movie snob. First of all, like I love so many bad movies. And second of all, I haven't written a movie, but I guarantee if I did, it would be much better than
Again,
that.
if the summer were longer, we'd just be like, all right, let's spend a day in here. Let's just quickly write a movie so we could say we've written a movie and we think it's better.
Yep.
Bang. There you go. Other women in this movie.
Teemu Solani's wife.
Teemu Solani's. All right. So we have One Night Stand Girl, Teemu Solani's wife, the famous Amy.
Mm.
Are we done?
We have
I do think so.
the hooker that
Yep.
that the commissioner was, and
You
his
got one
ex love interest that he called at one point, being like, "You want
Oh
to go to
yeah,
Cabo?"
yeah. Asking
She
her
was
to go
like,
to
"You
Cabo.
hit on my sister."
Oh, yep. There's the waitress that
So weird.
fake Gary Bettman wanted to tap.
Mm.
Yes. Yep.
She's only referenced, but there's
Kat, I want to say her name was.
yes.
Okay, so they are in the cast.
Because
I don't
there's
have,
just a lot of
I don't
cat
have the
stuff
full
going
cast
on.
here. Okay. Yes.
I'm up to 6.
All right. So you got
Do they ever
6.
talk to each other? No.
Oh, the mom. Sniff's mom.
The mom. Yep.
Yep.
And I think there's
Yeah, this definitely fails the
there's
Bechdel
one
test.
more.
Yeah. I
Easily.
texted you, Katie, saying this movie fails the Bechdel test because at no point in this movie are two characters ever not talking about Jake. Doesn't
Or
matter
Teemu
if it's
Solani.
man or woman. Everything is about Jake for some fucking reason.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
We know the reason.
There's
It's
one
because Jake
more,
wrote it.
and it's Monica.
Isn't
They have
that his
friends on in the background?
his girlfriend?
Uh,
The girl
yeah,
who wanted
I
to
don't
take the
remember
trip.
this.
She
one.
was that the woman that he called
I
when he was
thought.
like the first
yes.
the
yeah,
ex-love
you're right.
interest?
Yep. So we already
Which
got her.
another
so.
instance of like, you are writing the story. Why make the problem so weird? Like that
Yeah.
he hit on your sister.
Yeah,
Like
what-
just make it
Could pick
more.
anything.
Make the stakes higher. You
It
can
could
do
be
whatever you want.
Literally anything. It's your movie. The world is your oyster. Write something more interesting. And also, we didn't need to see her. I know we're just talking about how there's not that many women, but we didn't need to see a cutaway to the person that the commissioner is on the phone with to establish this entire story that I do not care about at all.
Yeah, it felt like an assignment more than it felt like,
Yes.
So-
like a piece of art.
I think that brings us to like the biggest overall question here is how and why did this happen, and why, or and I guess how did Teemu Solani and Brett Hull attach themselves to it?
It feels like somebody, what's the guy's name? The main guy? The
Dan
Jake.
Comrie.
Like, do you
It
think he's
feels
friends
like-
with them?
It feels like he met one of them, probably Teemu, and I don't know if it was like over drinks or maybe it was at like a tennis tournament or something. I don't know, but they made a connection that then this guy was like, "Oh my god, I could get him in a movie. It also feels like he agreed to it and then didn't think it was really going to happen. And then Teemu Selänne was like, I'm ready. And he was like, oh shit. And he wrote a script in 30 seconds. It
But-
feels like a relationship was made first. And from that was the idea of making a movie. And nobody ever stopped to put any time into trying to make that movie good.
Now, we should note something similar happened with the production of the movie Half Baked, where those two had agreed to do a movie, or Dave Chappelle had said, like, we're going to do a pot movie or whatever. And then he called, why can't I think of the other guy's name?
Jason, no.
Co-creator of Chappelle Show. Sorry to put
Oh,
you guys.
Neil Brennan.
Neil
Yes.
Brennan, right? Called Neil Brennan and was like, hey, so like we got to turn in that script. And Neil Brennan was like, what are you talking about? And they quickly banged out a script. And yeah, it was a ridiculous pop movie, but that was like a movie.
Yeah.
They made a movie because those are actually real talented artists. I did look it up, and I don't want to shit on Dan Comrie too much. It seems like he maybe bit off more that he could chew. I think that he was it looked like he played a little junior hockey. I was trying to dig through like elite prospects and stuff and try to find any sort of trace of a Dan Comrie. And
Wow.
Sean looks like he maybe has some
I was looking at
information.
it because it says he played for Lincoln Stars of the USHL. Interestingly, is a part of the NHL Comrie family, as in Eric Comrie.
Oh, really?
He's cousins with Mike and Paul Comrie, who are half brothers with Eric Comrie.
Wow.
So it is a big actual NHL family. Or I don't want to call it a big NHL family, but it is a hockey family with NHL ties.
It does go to show you, though, like sometimes you watch things like the NHL awards, and I've done this before. This makes us sound full of ourselves, but whatever. Everybody's a narcissist. You watch certain things and like you text your friends and you're like, why didn't they just have us do it? We could write better jokes than this or whatever. This is a guy saying, I'm just going to fucking do it. And yeah, he must have had a lot of money to be able to do it, but he didn't wait for anybody to say, Dan,
You're right.
make us a bad hockey movie. He was like,
You're right.
I'm just gonna fucking do it. And he did that. He made a
And he
bad.
distributed it. He got it to us. Like we watched it. That's can't say that for a lot of things. You can make a movie and then never even there's a lot of movies that get taken off of their streaming services now. No one's ever gonna take this off because they're gonna forget it's there.
Yeah,
That's true.
He's left his imprint on the world.
He has. And like I'm gonna talk about this movie a lot.
Brett
for
Hull
years.
spinoff when?
For years.
I would take a sequel so quickly.
Yeah, I would take like an Amy and what was the Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson show? If you give me that with Sniff and Amy, yeah.
And can
Cool.
we talk about just really quickly how it's almost again a good thing they didn't have that many women in this movie because the makeup. I don't know if you guys noticed this kind of stuff, but when Amy walked in the room, she looked like a toddler in a tiara. She had like child beauty pageant makeup on. It was wild.
This movie just screams I've never spoken to a woman.
Ever in my life.
Well,
Ever.
famously, Sniff gets nervous around women, so maybe
Cats.
Amy
It's
was trying
cats.
to
He's
curb
allergic to
that.
cats.
No, but the reason he sweats is because he gets uncomfortable around women. So maybe Amy's like, let's try to curb this, and I'll try to disguise my womanness and make myself look like a toddler. Any
Maybe.
better, Sniff?
I don't think
I don't think that should help. I don't think we should encourage that helping.
No. I think that would say more about Sniff than
Right.
anything in that situation.
Sniff would have a lot of explaining to do, and as we've learned, Sniff, when he needs to explain something, is a kind of one sentence in and out, writes like holds the pencil like this kind of guy.
Dan Comrie is known for minor leaguer, large pizza, and super athlete.
Oh, can we watch more Dan Comrie stuff, please?
Super athlete. Which
Wait,
came
so
out
it's
in
all
2024.
adjective, noun, adjective, noun, adjective, noun, adjective, noun.
Funny people.
Big pizza. What's big pizza?
Large pizza.
Sorry.
Large pizza.
Interesting. Now that I'm going through the Comrie's elite prospects page, his dad, Fred Comrie, was in fact the owner of the San Diego Gulls before they became an AHL team. So there is minor league hockey ownership in the family.
But that's what sucks about it is this movie isn't for people who live in a minor league hockey town because nothing fucking happens with the minor league hockey.
We only see the logo. We don't see like the jerseys. We don't even see an ice rink. We don't see any other players. There is quite literally zero hockey in this movie. This is a tennis movie.
More hockey in Inside Out 2. By a long shot.
There's more hockey in Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which starts with a Detroit Red Wings game.
Oh, that's fucking
There's more
cool.
hockey in Ferris Bueller's Day Off because he's wearing a Red Wings jersey.
That's true.
That's
At
right.
least there's one hockey jersey in that movie. Oh man. So not a hockey movie.
Yeah.
Even though it literally stars Teemu Selanne and Brett Hull.
Brett
they don't
Hull,
have minor
Brett
roles.
Brett Hull, who wears one sweatshirt for the whole movie.
And it's a tequila company. That was absolutely a deal for him to promote some tequila brand.
It was like his buddy's thing.
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm doing this movie. I don't think they have a wardrobe. I'm just gonna wear what I'm gonna wear." I saw a thing the other day of Rick Astley talking about the famous "Never Gonna Give You Up" music video, and he was like, "They were not prepared at all. I showed up, and they had no plan. They just had some dancers and some cameras." Like, this iconic raincoat that I'm wearing is just the coat that I was wearing. It was my own clothes. They didn't have wardrobe. They didn't have anything. That's what this movie was.
That's
Except
awesome.
it didn't end up being Never Gonna Give You Up.
It
It
didn't
just
end
ended up being this
awesome.
movie.
It ended up sucking. What was with the random scene with that janitor that went into Teemu's office and told him that he was hung like a horse and gonna fuck his wife?
That was cool. That was Brett Hull fucking with him.
I mean, what a weird scene. What the fuck?
I didn't like the way he was talking about his wife, where he was
I'm
like,
gonna fuck your wife.
"Well, I'm gonna fuck your wife."
Which is,
Be
did
cool
she know
about
that
it.
was
Guys say they're gonna fuck people's wives all the time, and if you keep yelling at me for saying I'm gonna fuck your wife's gonna dump you. And once she's single, I'm gonna give it to her good when I fuck her. It's like, oh,
And
dude.
I would imagine like Teemu Selanne's wife was like, "Can I be in this movie?" And Dan Comer was like, "Sure, but I'm gonna make a whole scene about how a janitor wants to fuck you."
And Teemu just sat there and was like, "Yeah, this is
what?
like we could talk about my wife like this."
This movie's so weird.
Really,
So
really bad movie. While
Never
we're talking
adds
about
up.
While we're talking about family stuff, I know that we've been indirectly trying to get Dan, good Dan Soder, into hockey. Did this help or hurt, would you say?
Oh, I don't know. I think ultimately it helped. I think it would have helped had there been a little bit more hockey itself in the film. But yeah, no, I think this certainly made him more interested in knowing more about Teemu Selanne. So we're at least good there.
I think the fact that he probably saw you watching and reacting to all of this, being like, this is not what a hockey fan, think is good. That probably
Yes.
made him think, like,
Yeah.
okay, good. If this isn't what hockey fans want, then maybe they want something that's a little more in line with my palate.
I do
Yeah,
really
luckily,
like the idea of Dan being like the only guy in the world who like sees Teemu Selanne highlights and is like, "Ooh, the guy from Minor Leaguer."
Like
Yes.
that clip from Conan's podcast where he's like, Jeff Epstein?
Yes. The Minor Leaguer star?
Exactly.
Teemu Selanne, the celebrity tennis match participant?
The guy who beat Roger Federer?
It was doubles. Amazing. Well, Katie, you're the best. We love when you come on. This was an absurd conversation, but it's the only conversation you can have about such a movie. Does anybody have final thoughts on this film?
I feel like I'm missing something. I know I've got things to say, but I just truly think like let the message of this be like you can do anything. Just try it. Just try
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah, you can do
and-
it.
but-
May not
and if
be
you
good.
do it and then you try it and then you watch it back and it's not good, you also don't have to keep going. You can try again. You can do a different something. But like don't let anybody tell you you can't do it cuz they did it and we watched it and all of us we're never going to get that hour and 15 or this however long we've been here back. And you could say technically this movie made a difference in my life. Was it a good one or a big one? Probably not, but it certainly changed the course of my life.
This may be the second movie review that we've done in which the review has been longer than the movie.
I mean, I feel like the
Oh my God.
trailer to this movie is longer than the movie. It has a long trailer for a very, very short movie. I am convinced, I won't do this, but all of the footage that they shot could be like a fun Instagram reel. If they like really, really like, so this movie obviously needs to be re-edited very, very badly. Its worst sin is its editing. you could make this into, you'd have to like change the story around and everything. I bet you could make a cool Instagram reel with this. Keep it under 60.
Summer project.
Yeah, summer project. Keep it under 60 seconds. There's something that could be done with this. Katie, you're the best. I'm sure that we'll talk to you once the season starts about things like hockey, but the reason you're the best is you can take diligent notes on such an absurd movie.
So many notes, you guys. I have so many notes. I'll send you an email if I forgot any.
Fantastic.
Just take a picture of the notes and send it to us because I bet it looks incredible.
It's a lot. I got a lot. It's on my
Hell yeah.
remarkable tablet.
All right, you're the best. We'll talk to you later. Bye, friend.
Bye.
Thank you to Katie. What a ridiculous movie. What a ridiculous movie the Toronto Maple Leafs are. Their offseason has been a movie. We found out earlier this week that they are naming Auston Matthews captain is how it was reported.
Yeah, sure.
Auston Matthews to be named captain. Ah,
I didn't know that the Maple Leafs didn't have a captain.
maybe
for a
they're
while.
Italian doing the double C thing.
Yeah, that's right. John Tavares, go fuck yourself.
Hey, Bill, like that's what they were doing.
That's what they said, not me.
Yes, that's what they were doing, and I don't know. I can be a little. I don't mean to be, but like I can be a little like douchey with like my media literacy of like, oh, you people aren't. Oh, you don't understand that it's actually they're fucking stripping the sea. Yeah. They stripped the sea in Toronto. The Maple Leafs, who are this massive, dramatic team, stripped the sea. It does make more sense that Auston Matthews is the captain than John Tavares. So, like, it's good business. I was talking to Sean about it before the show. Like, he's in a walk year. It makes this season way easier to not have questions about what are you going to do with your captain. They're going to say, what captain?
I mean, this is like a walk year, but they probably spent all summer trying to find a way to get John Tavares off that team. And then they were like, oh, probably can't. Maybe we should take the C away and give it to the other guy.
Yeah, but I mean, Auston Matthews is on a short contract with them. He didn't go long with them.
4 years?
He went like 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
4 years, says Sean. So he's in a walk a half a decade. How many years left on his deal? Do you know?
I think it's
I want to say three
or two.
Three more?
Yeah. The whole thing when he signed it in Arizona was that he signed a short contract on purpose so he could sign with the Coyotes in their prime, so he can lead them to a Stanley Cup. Obviously, that's not happening.
Do we have an
anymore.
update on the lot,
The Coyotes
the land? Have they gotten that?
No, wait. Is that a real question?
No, I'm kidding. They said fuck that.
Yeah,
and why can't I think of his name?
Murillo?
Yeah, Murillo's gone, and that's all that.
Yeah,
But
contract through 2027. So
I do want to push back, though. As I said, I think that generally this is, I won't go tidy bit of work, but I think it's logical business. It's something that makes more sense that Auston Matthews is their captain than John Tavares is. But I want to push back on the narrative and conversation out there that that's your big move this offseason. That's your big move. Just say what you want to say. You want them to trade Mitch Marner because they made big moves. They signed Chris Tanev. They overpaid Oliver Ekman-Larsson for like they made moves. They did shit. So just because you're mad they didn't trade Mitch Marner, who
I could see the narrative being like, oh, that's the big move with the core. Because they were expected to at least move one piece of the core, whether it was Tavares, whether it was Marner. If that's their big move for like rearranging the core, bad bit of work.
they moved is the C, but you can't spell core without C. They moved the C. They moved the C from one breast to another. Tavares said, I didn't get a chance. We've been recording this episode in bits and pieces all day, so we didn't get a chance to watch the Tavares and Matthews press conference. Saw some stills of it. Looks hilarious just because those are two players with comical resting faces. So
Yeah.
even if they didn't do anything wrong, it looked uncomfortable. Even though they probably weren't uncomfortable. Actually, maybe they were.
They've made it very clear, or at least publicly, that like this is not a punishment for John Tavares. This is a changing of the guard. This is a real. I think the word they stripped the C, but the other narrative was he ceded the C. He ceded the captaincy to Auston Matthews as a rite of passage.
I love that word. I tried to use it in my writing quite a bit. Seed and rest were my two, like, intentionally put them in there. WR EST. What's going on? There's a sticker on your...
It's a sticker. It says my name because we ordered Uber Eats. So they just took my name and slapped it on the can of Sprite here.
Wow, Sean, can we get a can crunch on Sean? Sean, do we have... No, I meant like, can we see your... Do you not have a can?
I didn't get a can.
Sean did not get a can.
Sean's a big, I don't need a drink guy.
Sean says, fuck your drinks.
I don't drink soda all that often. And yeah, I had water, so I figured.
I haven't had soda.
I just want a nice little Sprite.
I haven't had soda in like 2 weeks. I feel terrible.
I had soda yesterday, but I don't drink it that often.
Actually,
What'd you have though?
Ginger ale. So not really, hardly a soda.
I had a lime Ricky. My first in a while.
Sullivan's?
Oh, yeah.
What the hell is a lime Ricky?
Oh, you don't know what a raspberry lime Ricky?
No.
Sean's going to Sullivan's. Let's take you to Castle Island.
Yeah.
You would, Sean, you would like Castle
You've
Island.
talked about this before.
That's where I got engaged.
Yes.
It's where people are just getting engaged. People are rollerblading. Families are eating. Families are eating either at Sullivan's or like people have cookouts at Castle Island. There's just like a strip where there's 900 families who are just like, we're eating here. Everybody, they bring their own. It's like a quasi picnic, quasi cookout. It's amazing. And then you're on the water. It's fantastic. But my main takeaway from the stripping of the sea is they stripped the sea. They did do other things with their roster. It's just that I think that everybody kind of makes everything about the fact that Mitch Marner wasn't traded.
My big problem with this whole thing is, and I said it at the time when Fanatics did their whole like unveil with Auston Matthews in that video where they kept handing him a bunch of boxes of uniforms that were like really special to him and things like that. And then at the end, they gave him the box of his own uniform, which was the exact same uniform he's been wearing for years at this point, just with the Fanatics logo on it. That would have been the perfect opportunity for that video to fucking pop if he opened that box, pulled out his uniform, and it had the C on it.
What nuts? If you could go through our episodes around the time we were in Vegas, I did some like quick scanning and clicking. We definitely talked about that. We definitely said that is where you reveal there's a C on the jersey. And it was probably while we were talking about the presidential debate or something, but I don't know. Find it for us. We'll appreciate that. What a big, crazy episode we had. This was quite loaded.
Yeah.
All right. We will talk to you possibly live. We have more special guests coming up, by the way. We're getting sick of these weekly episodes. We're going to be back to daily episodes very soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.
We all silly like the mayor.